everybody. Welcome to the Woody's Iron Dog Rookie Workshop for the 2019 race. This is where we go over we get the advice from experts who have been out on the race before, and they'll try and impart that wisdom to you folks. On behalf of the Iron Dog Board of Directors, I introduce Unch, Church.
Hi. Church.
Sunday.
Good morning. Board of Directors, there's two of us here. Lee's here, myself, Unch, Shirk. I'm a brand new board member. There's been a change in the board of directors, and some people left and some more people came in. We got four new ones. Myself, Micah Huss, Danny Cueco, and Todd. Sorry, Todd, I apologize for that. Doug Dixon's also here.
Michael Brown, Jay Fidel, Jenny Emmons,
Yep.
Steve Matua, Kenny McKibben,
Yep, there you go. The website's been updated. If you want to see the board of directors and the terms and the names and stuff like that, you could go to the website, irondog.org. Let's see what else. Everything else is just going good. We're happy to have a race this year. Thank you to all the sponsors. We appreciate your help. We appreciate everything. Make this race go on. There was some talk at the beginning of the year that there was no race this year, and all the board of directors and the executive director and Sarah herself, everybody came together, and we're working overtime to put this race together. When I signed up for the board of directors, it said, how many hours are you willing to put into this race? And the max was 30. I think I exceeded that in the first 3 days. I mean, I'm sure Sarah and John are working overtime too. And can't thank our sponsors enough. They're amazing. So hope we have a great, safe race this year. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody in Fairbanks. We're going to try to keep the scratches and everything to a minimum with all the information we can provide to the rookies, whether it's gear, snowmobile setup, trails talk, trail setup, what's going on with the other racers, what's going on over here, but we'll take care of it. We'll try to help you out, and thank you very much. John?
Well, I think this is part of the show we're going to segue into. That was very well done. Huh?
Thanks.
So now we have Larry Levine, who's been up the trail 4 times, finished twice?
2 times, yeah, essentially.
That's great. 50%. All right. Larry's going to go over a little bit of what it's going to take to be an Iron Dogger as far as gear, probably as far as attitude and mental fortitude. I'm sure he'll provide some inside tips and maybe some cautions for everybody here. He's a seasoned veteran, don't let him fool you. He's very qualified to teach us rookie workshop. Take it away.
Thank you. Usually I have credibility because either Matthew Spurnack or Chris Holtz is standing next to me, but fortunately Brian can help me out and stand in when we need to. I know more about it from what not to do than from what to do as far as getting it right. And there's a reason why everybody looks like clones at the start of that race. They've tried and done a lot of things that have worked out well. When you go outside those bounds, sometimes you get yourself in trouble. Kind of a rule of thumb is don't make any changes post-January. You got to be dialed in for what equipment you're going to use. I know the weather's not helping us out in some ways. You got to be in the best shape you can be in. It's going to be a lot more than you ever expected. That first day, you get from the graph, hopefully if things work, you want to be with the wave, and then just keep pushing to that second day. Will kind of take the wind out of your sails if you're not in great shape. And we'll talk about some personal hygiene issues that should be fairly common, but a lot of what I'm going to talk about, Chris Holt has done this lecture probably 17 times, and he's kind of got it down and goes through the salient important parts. We're going to go through the equipment and say what it works, what I found that doesn't work. And a lot of it's planning, just planning. And I used to say it was a million details. That is such a lie. It is 3 million details. It is the little stuff. To give you an example, outside of McGrath on a training run, we had some goggles on. And when you have goggle drama and you can't see, you can only go 50 feet before you're fogging up again, not even from outside ice, but just because you have the wrong setup. This is going back 4 years ago. It becomes dangerous. You can't ride hard enough to stay warm. You got the wrong stuff on. You can't see where you're headed, and it becomes a problem. And that is a rookie mistake. Figure out what you're going to use and do it over and over. I actually, 2 years back, my face was ripped raw from pulling the duct tape off over and over, even with the micropore tape underneath, because I was unwilling to deviate and use anything else because what I had was working. Find out what works for you. And what works for you may be a little bit different than someone else. Size of your head's different, a little bit of different helmet, different boot size. There's all these little variables that go in and adjust it as you need to for what's going to work for you. Again, that going into shape, knowing that stuff's going to go wrong. Stuff is going to go wrong. This is the attitude you take. Don't turn a little thing into a big thing. If you fly, you know that chain of events where accidents happen. It's the next, the next, the next. Stop, do a quick timeout, check stuff. Don't make the rookie mistake like I've made at least 3 times. Leave your gas cap at sweating on the first stop. When you have gas pouring over your legs, and then the gas, you think your legs are on fire, but it's just the gas. You have to turn back, or you have to grab your other one. Problem, you know. So all the little details add up. And like I said, I know more about it from making the mistakes. I can vividly recall Mark Torkelson having my cap in his hand as I come back up. He goes, "You looking for something, Leonard?" Yeah. So just that baseline of consistency, use the same stuff you're using. Don't change race day. I've seen people's hands look like they put them in a meat grinder because they found a new pair of gloves that they liked the day before the race. Bad decision. Keep your gloves dry. Find the gauntlets that work for you. Use them. If you say, I never ride with gauntlets, but then it's 40 below and the wind's blowing 40 miles an hour from the side outside a Nome, and you haven't had that experience, it's amazing. And you may be cold because your windshield's not working the same way it was before. Make sure you've used your gauntlets to know how to take care of it. I think we'll just jump into some of the equipment. There's the required list, which is on the racer's list, about stuff you need. And I'll start from this end first. Boots are preference. People love the bunny boots. I'm a fan. Tape it up because I wear them out fast because I ride like a knucklehead. So there you go. But the other ones, you got to remember the rules. If you have an insert that is not considered waterproof, you need a second set of spares to carry with you. And that is very relevant, especially if you talk to Stan James a couple of years ago. His spare boots were inside the plane. You got to be prepared. The plane went down at his stop. He didn't have boots to change into, frostbit his feet. He had a scratch. So you got to be prepared. Most of the issues are what's on you is what you're going to have. Don't count on having your machine with you if it sinks or something else. There's a few things you ought to keep on your body. I carry a sat phone. Some people do other things. What works for you, go with it. Make sure it works. Make sure you've renewed your credit card on the sat phone so they don't cut you off. Been there, done that.
I've used the Zoa boots. Klein makes them, and last 2 years works awesome. I'm just gonna break my ankle support and all that stuff. Last year we went in that creek, and I would just say I'm not gonna use a Zoa boot again. Use money due to the fact that it gets cold and you get wet, and it's not fun, especially when you got 200 more miles to ride. Your feet are wet all the time. At least those could keep warm. And just wear ankle support if you're worried about your ankles.
And that equipment list issue, so I've talked to people who had ankle support issues. It's tough to find ankle supports that will go in the bunny boots. And find one, share that. I gotta tell you, Chris Holtz is great about sharing information. And I think if you ask any of the people that raced before, and we talk about that, the Iron Dog family, that's part of why I do it. Everyone's going to help out. Even if we don't know you or if you know me personally, a call, a text, a messenger, people are going to give you information. They might, and Chris will say, the only thing I won't give you is information on my shocks. Figure that out on your own. But anything else is fair game to figuring out. So use that as a resource to figure out. In relation, I was trying to figure out how to do a knee brace because I had buggered up my knee a few years back. I couldn't figure out how to do it. I now go without because some of that is when you're racing this marathon, stuff happens. Your knee brace will slide down a little bit, and if you can't figure out a way to keep it there, and I tried everything. I mean, I had the suspenders, and I had the wraps coming down and up over the top, support off the boot. I could never get that. And if someone comes up with that and they share that, hallelujah. But as far as I know, a lot of the stuff that you try and figure out may not work. Most everybody's using your shin pads of one variety or another because of the knee issues. I use a sleeve underneath. The advantage of the sleeve, and I will tell you the advantage of the Climb Defender bottom ones, is they have some inserts that are essentially the ballistic material. And the amount of insulation you would think is not much. That gap keeping you away from your skin is absolutely huge to keep you a little bit warmer from that perspective. Also, these have the chamois on the inside, which goes to personal hygiene and other. There's a fair number of people that had a tough time racing or even scratching. Your seat gets wet, your butt gets wet, you're riding and you shake your bottom, it's non-rideable. People talk about Vaseline, the people who are bicyclists, there's some called butt butter, there's other versions of it. I would tell you also, make sure you use it and try it a few times to figure out how are you going to have that technique down. And I'll tell you, because someone I know, won't mention any names, but they had a different variety of the bicycling stuff, and it was mentholated. And if you can imagine, it's no different than putting Bengay on your private parts, and it creates a monster. So be careful that way. I'm using the Tagwati bibs. I think that's kind of the standard. As part of it, again, the things I keep on my body, usually a couple techniques for starting fires. I have not had to light my snow machine on fire. People talk about it. I use a Leatherman version knife, and it's helpful. You need something on you regularly for figuring that part out. We'll talk about tools in a minute. I've got a fire starter on it, and I love my lights. I'm getting better about not having a bazillion of them, but you need lights. You'll see we have the helmet lights. Figure out what's going to work for you, and know that when your machine's off, you got no lights, and just a little bit of something on your helmet to be able to turn off and on makes life really good. A headlamp with a strap, and I tried to get fancy. I had all these techniques. I broke every fancy one I had. All the cool stuff I had on Velcro and other stuff, all of it somewhere on the trail between Big Lake and the river. It's never made it. The cool stuff I had, spending hours and hours manufacturing a little holder for the light. Lead dog lights, I carry that in the top. It works great when you need it. We'll talk about it in a while, I'm sure, but the advantage is you got a brake light, you got a front light, and you can get through a checkpoint even if you're having electrical stuff in your lights, which we've had. I mean, I think there's a pretty common that way. Chapstick, eye drops, figuring out your vision issues. Got to tell you, I wear contacts. Wearing glasses under your goggles, tough. If you guys aren't old and bald like me, but that's an issue, figuring that out. I also say, if you do have two sets of your gear and you're breaking one in, make sure you do your race set. Don't keep it pristine and have a zipper issue or something else because you're not paying attention. Fan of the BCA, just because it's vented a fair amount. I have a tech vest as well. You'll see in here, I've got a mesh pocket sewed in. The reason is, keep some water with you, but you got to figure that part out as well. So insulated tube, but it's going to freeze if you leave it to the outside. We pull it, tuck it on the inside, and keep it there, even insulated. When you're done taking your water break, blow back into the tube, clear your tube. A frozen water bag, an extra 5 pounds, meaningless for you. Multiple times. But having that hydration ability as you go is pretty awesome. A couple years back, I had some sugar control issues, so you don't want to just have your mandatory survival gear. If you're like me and you start to bonk out on the trail and you can't tell heads or tails, and it is actually your partner that's going to notice. For me, when the sugars get out of whack, I can't tell. When the sugars get back on track, it is, I say I'm coming out of this spa. It's just from the high exertion. And I can tell you my partner from last year, very much the same way. We were on a training right outside Petersville. Must have mentioned to him 5 times, hey, what you doing? What's going on? What's happening? We didn't stop. We didn't take a break. Rode off the side of the road. No damage done, but it was about 20, 30 minutes later after getting some meat and going, he had some jet lag from traveling, lack of sleep, lack of food, and just was not thinking clearly and was pretty unaware of it. So that's part of that race strategy too, I think, is as you get used to riding a certain way, you may be slowing down. Your partner may say something, pass each other, or do something else to change it up so you keep going in a reasonable fashion.
Practice like you're gonna race too. I know we don't drink water. Okay, practice is in the race we don't drink water at all. That goes back. It's all preferability. I mean, you want to be as hydrated as possible. I know before the race we drink gallons, 2 gallons a day, try to just to get the week before the race, just to get hydrated. But we don't stop. We don't like to stop to go to the bathroom, so we don't drink any water during the race or during riding periods.
Food stuff, I gotta tell you, some of the fake sugar stuff is pretty good. This stuff's really good. So something you want to munch on is gonna get you. After trial and error, I found Old Trapper. These ones don't freeze. You find whatever works for you. This just works for me and it tastes out nice. But you can't underestimate that food issue or the other if that's what you need. And everybody's different.
Yeah, we keep little Snickers bars with us. We will stop and eat Snickers. Just get tired of it. Take your butt to you. Take a minute. Take a break.
So this is one on, so this is the micropore tape, the foam tape. Way better than duct tape for getting off and on your face. Also very insulated. Works great as the base layer. Duct tape over the top of the windscreen. You can ask people about how they're doing the tape with a little snorkel to get it happen. Also, they make the no fog gear. We got a neoprene works. Some people's helmets work, and we got it built in. Whatever works for you. And then duct tape. And actually, it was only about 2 years ago. I kept trying to figure out. I'd wait for the roll to get a little bit smaller, and then figuring out to get this one fit in there because space is an issue. And then someone said, just get the roll of duct tape, smash it in the vise, bend it, and it's a little smaller. And I'm thinking, well, why did I think of that? So whatever works for you, and just be smarter than the roll of tape. Some of the things not to do, just so you know, there were people at the tech inspection last year that showed up with this as their bivvy. No go. You can't race with this. You need a substantial bivvy. This doesn't count. And some of it is you want to be in that prep mode and ready to go race time just a few days before the race. And if you haven't figured out where you're packing your stuff and what's going on, pretty stressful. And I think you've got.
I didn't at home, but yeah, don't be that guy. I was that guy last year. Get the big one. Figure out where it's going to go prior to, because I was after those in last year, trying to figure out where I was going to put it.
And the other one's about 4 times the size of that, and you don't think that's much of a deal? When you're packed as light as Brian, I've got a big bag on the back of mine. It's like a station wagon if I compare it to what the top guys are riding. So figuring it out is absolutely key. You're going to need a stove, and I think all of you have ridden enough, and when you shake it, if I get the string, you don't hear anything. Got to tell you, you're going to have to pack your stuff, and it includes your tools. It will be like the lapidary where people are polishing rocks. Your tool bag in the back of that seat is going to have 1 billion vibrations. Make sure your bike grips are closed and locked. Make sure your tools are separated away. You're going to grind out your sockets over the course of your training, and you're going to figure out you need to have that stuff secured. You're just going to beat it. So if this stuff is not, and part of the issue is the fuel cells that these burn, and there's different styles, and I brought one of each. This one, and it stinks. That's the issue. So the fuel cells on these, the wax petrol product that it is, when it gets shaved up or powderized, it stinks everything up. You smell like a dead fish. I mean, it really is a dead fish smell. And you don't want that. So seal all your stuff up. It's wrapped separately, illuminated, and packed, so it's not going to get destroyed there. Everyone's always trying to improve. I can tell you, a Bic with some duct tape wrapped around it is awesome. I tried to improve it, so I used the shorter Bic with the tape on it. Thought, okay, but then when you need it and your hands are cold, you can't light the lighter because the tape gets in the way. So again, I'm the dude who made all those mistakes over the last few years, and I'm saying, I'm sharing with you, don't do those. First aid kit, you're required to have it. There's several different ones. Packet. There's a few things you may want to consider first aid that you just have there. Earplugs, some people like to race with. I'd also tell you, make sure you have earplugs even if you don't ride with them, for when you're at McGrath and some of the other places where you're way late, because you may be in a room with other people that snore louder than you, and you will not be sleeping without earplugs or something else. So find something that works for you.
People are coming in and out all through the night. Pilots like to have fun.
Yeah. If you have one of the little saws on the little string, then you're going to go back and forth, buy a different one. 2 brands here, but the saw is going to be helpful. The little on the string, no go. Okay, just I'll leave it at that. And you're going to probably have to cut a tree or 2 on your race. Not necessarily because it's down on the trail. The trail's not the way it was, and now you've got to prep another portion to get across the creek or a river, or you went off the trail and you got a spindle stuck on a tree stump or something else, and you're going to be doing a little cutting. These are the pellets in a bag. Again, we can have a go with that.
Can y'all talk louder so the electric?
Sure. Louder. Louder. Cases.
The younger gentleman's the one that they're having a real difficult hearing.
What's that?
Brian,
The younger
talk
gentleman's the one
louder.
they're having a real tough time hearing.
Hey.
Just so you know.
Come on, don't be a rookie. So, cases. So there's different ones made, and you go again that you don't think it makes a big deal. It does. Some of this stuff makes a big deal. Don't try and use something like this that is already a massive amount of material that you're trying to roll up. Go for something a little bit bigger. Fine line interiors, Doug Dixon makes these. You'll see just about everybody with them, which we'll go into. We'll have you talk about ratchet straps and other stuff in there, I think, as part of the tools and all the tool. You need a certain amount of hardware with you. They're going to say a certain amount between tools and parts. Bring enough parts to repair your stuff that are common that you think you need. For flares, little darts, use them for different things. Tape, other stuff, ratchet straps versus rope, zip ties. Brian probably talked better about that. So.
Yeah, so I know, being honest with you, there's a bunch of different things. They say there's a minimum of 5 pounds of tools hanging on the tool list. I would suggest, we both carry 5 pounds of tools. My partner, Casey, carries tools, and then I carry tools. We split them evenly. You know, his set will be to do so many things, and then my set will be to do so many things. We also carry 2 tow ropes, and they say, I think, of what, a minimum of 25 feet or 50 feet of tow rope. I think we carry 100 each, and it's same synthetic stuff. It wraps up small. There's no when you get caught in a bind, and you will. It happens every year. It's not worth, saving 2 pounds because you think your sled's going to ride better or worse, or it's going to be faster. Carry tools that you're going to need. We carry little fuel filters. I don't know, some of you guys don't have problems usually with flares, but we carry low fuel filters, crimps, like I said, ratchet straps, just anything. We carry a little bolt package too. Find the bolts that are most common. We have bolts that can go from the front end to the rear end of the skid. So we carry, 2, 3, 4 of those, and it can be used as anything.
Some baling wire, some little bit of patch kit stuff for whatever. Get the most universal ones. Dave Houseback, who rode with me, liked his washers and bolts, and that actually was a pretty nice trick to be able to overlap on the smaller part and then have to purchase extra set of plugs, although in a race we've never had to do that. But back to the rope issue, I think is kind of key. So this qualifies you're a knucklehead if you try and go out there with that. So a substantial rope. We also do the toe loops for the front skis or the arm coming off for the spindle to pull, and a substantial rope, and usually enough. And depending on if it's a real wet year, you might even want to have a little bit extra to be able to get a little bit better perch. And then the tool wrap, again, just something that's going to work for you. This one I think again, another Doug Dixon fine line, they kind of got it figured out for you. Sockets in one set, and then figuring out what you need. So this is the only parachute rope I've got, and I guess, what would you use that one for? Yeah, I'll tell you that,
Exhaust springs.
exhaust springs. So I'll tell you that we've got the other ones, but after we put the boxes on the machine, getting to the springs is really problematic. And this is a nice little trick. Crescent with the wide mouth, it goes real wide. And, I use isobite bar, so instead of having a huge single use open end, or something else, you got this one that'll fit those isobite nuts. And making sure, another thing is, know your machine well enough, which luckily I've got some help with Matthew Spurneck, but making sure you got the right Allen wrenches for some of the ones you won't get to, like your throttle body. Your throttle body gets loose, and you forgot the little Allen wrench, which was a different size than everywhere else. Problem.
I had one of those actually fall off, so made my throttle loose, and I didn't catch it until after I was done working on the sled, So, yeah, just little things like that you don't ever think about. Never had a problem the last 2 years. It was a problem.
And with that said, it's the little details again. So if you catch the mistake and something's getting loose, fix it beforehand. If you feel the back of your track getting a little bit loose, before you rip something out, stop and take the 5 minutes to tighten it, because it's going to compound. That little 5-minute fix is going to be a 5-hour, if not an overnight stop somewhere to fix it later. All those little details, get in the habit of checking your machine at every stop if you're concerned about it. We're all, almost everybody I know, will torque strike all their bolts, their nuts, etc. Check those, get used to doing it. Have your routine down of what you're going to look at to make sure it's a smooth flow. Some of the conveniences you will finish up. I'm kind of just going as I set this stuff out, figuring out where we're at. These are the most dangerous gauntlets in the universe. If you happen to be around my machine, be careful. They work for me. They're the ones for biking, for mountain biking in the winter. They've got an extra set of liners inside. My hands get real cold, probably from using x-ray during my day job. But I had them adapted so they'd open up. I'm going to get it wider, but you pull on the gauntlet. And it's not just this set though, because I used a different pair just recently. I couldn't figure out why my hands kept heating up. And it would flip on the heat buttons when I wasn't thinking about it with every turn, just of where to put the pressure. So get used to whichever one, which again I'm saying, just practice with it and try it and figure out what's going to work for you. These work because they're warm enough, but you got to figure out what works. Dixon at Fine Line makes some great ones. They put some snaps on it if you want to seal it up. You got to remember, when you're going that fast over a long period, that turbulent wind coming back will make your hands cold. And we struggled and struggled the first year trying to hands warm, especially for me. Thicker gloves is not necessarily the answer. It is if you're stopped and you're trying to keep warm in an emergency situation. But thicker gloves then is more insulation from your hands getting warm off the bars. So sometimes thinner are going to work. And Chris Olds does an awesome job explaining about his choice of the glove issues. I got actually in there that I can use that as a mitt, so that one's what covers me. But he'll usually have for the, oh, heck, we're having huge problems, some big gloves, or mittens, mittens. He'll have mittens, no fingers, keep his hands warmer. And then you figure out the gloves. I'm a fan of having at least one pair of something that's waterproof. If you have to reach into the water and grab something, or get the rope around a spindle to pull a machine out, which we've done it, it's helpful. Very helpful to keep your hands warm enough, because you need to be able to function for a little bit to get going again. And then whatever gloves you're going to use, and then a couple backup pairs of those gloves, because they're going to get wet. Again, try and keep your hands dry.
Yeah, we've had problems. Last year we got wet, whatever. And we gave a team an extra set of gloves, because I don't know if they could get to them, or they got their hands wet. Anytime, keep your gloves on as much as you can. It goes down to
talk about contact gloves, just some finer ones. I think I threw some in. I'll find those in a second. But when I mean contacts, so they make a little, almost it's a cotton silk, really thin glove. If you have to wrench, just that is a barrier, but you can still grab stuff, still feel it well enough to get the bolts on. If your hands are bare, your timeout to try and do anything is 10 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I had Larry help me with my problem my rookie year. That was another thing. I changed to a pair of gloves I'd never used, practicing all year. Race day, it was warm, so I was like, oh, I'll try these gloves. And it was, 30 degrees in Big Lake and negative 50 when we got into McGrath. And I frostbit the whole tip of my finger, ended up falling off, but, and then it got big and it got a blister. Larry had to drain it a couple times in Fairwind or in Nome for me, but after that you're worried. I couldn't hit the brake as much. It goes back to, I know Chris Olds, he does a heated brake lever, something to try out if it gets cold and stuff like that. And, some use metal brake levers, some use plastic. So another thing, if your hands get cold or if you ride the brakes like I do, I always have a finger on the brake. Try different things.
I've modified just facial features. I've modified my head stockings just a little bit on a couple spots. Part of it's because I'm bald. So after a day of not shaving, your hair grows in one way, it's kind of direction. So as I move my head, it pulls the mask all the way over. So I use a little bit of a skull cap to get a little less friction there and keep my other part in place, the balaclava. Rubber gloves. I use a little pair of exam gloves for doing the tool stuff when it's not too cold. Keeps your hand dry, keep the grease off. Just a quick way to add an extra layer of protection. Parts-wise, and it's back to knowing your equipment. So the jackets, the difference between climate, and it's just a different issue. So this was 3 years back, and it's got this little bit of fleece here. This one, they changed the zippering system, so it's got a lot more adaptability with the vents, but it doesn't have the fleece. It's both Valdez coats. And I will tell you, in prepping for it, that difference in that one little layer of fleece-like material, 15 degrees. So what I was comfortable with this one, now when it got a little cooler, I had to add an extra layer. It worked out great because you have the vent system that you can do it because you don't want to sweat. So you're going to juggle stuff to keep from sweating. But you think you got to work it out. You got to say, if you saved your old coat for the race and you pulled out a brand new one and you hadn't trialed it, it was going to be a world of hurt. So you got to practice with your stuff. Use it and know what's going on. Little stuff. This is the tubing from Alaska Rubber. We snip off pieces and I use it as a straw. Just a quick way to be able to get it in under the mask, get hydrated quick. I've got the tube otherwise, but it just makes it fast. Which goes back to the cold stuff. So if you buy a siphon hose and you don't change out the rubber, it's not going to work. It's going to work when it's 45 degrees or 50 degrees, but during your race, it's not. So go pick up the cold weather rubber to be able to do it. The valve works not. With that said, same thing. If you're using bungees, and you'll see bungee used a lot, no go. Don't use that style bungee. Get the true rubber ones, and I'll tell you, this one is the Arctic rated bungee, but it gets really, really stiff when it's cold.
It makes you mad when you're trying to take your bags off at a checkpoint. It takes you 5 minutes to pull one bungee off to get your day bag off.
Yeah, so this is probably a better option for most, and I have not seen these fail. I've seen people fail them, including leaving it off, get wrapped around the track, going down and stretch. And Dave Hausbeck says, the amount of force you can put on this is amazing, because he was convinced that on one of those stretches, that this was as thin as a number 2 pencil lead and still hadn't quite snapped. He was afraid to be able to futz around with it and get it out. Some of the things, bending the hooks on the end, just a simple thing. All the little simple stuff adds up, so it's not falling out when you leave it. Gummy toys. Helmet-wise, it's got to be orange color. Modify. We use a communicating headset. It's mixed on how many people do.
Yeah, we didn't last year, 2 years, so it's a good idea. Because if you get stuck and you're the guy behind him, your partner doesn't look behind him very often. There's been times where I got stuck and then he went out 3 miles trying to turn around and he got stuck. Then you're both stuck.
And depending, you got to communicate well with each other. And remember, it's a team. And I can tell you, on the few times I've done it, and it's actually 3 times for Truth in Advertising. First year we scratched, and then the second 2 I finished. So it's actually better than 50%. I feel good about that. But worse. But the rundown is you'll see people come to a checkpoint and they're yelling and screaming at each other. Remember, there's stuff going to go wrong. It's how you handle it. My goal is always to say, let's be safe, let's end up friends at the end of this, and let's finish this. And there's so many people that the drama of running the race, and you'll get it after you run it. It is, you will be bonded. You'll be bonded with whoever you race that race with, unlike anything you've done before, with all the time and effort that goes into it and everything else. So communicate. Keep talking to each other. Bring each other up. Don't pull each other down.
Try to keep it as fun as possible. We know we're all spending a bunch of money and time to do this, and finances get tough sometimes, but it sucks when you get out there and you're mad, and then it's not fun. You're riding point to point, not having any fun. Try to keep a smile on your face, joke around.
And whatever works for you, figuring it out. For me, the open face helmet works. A lot of people like the closed. There's a lot of reason, one over the other. Preference, figuring it out. But again, use it and figure it out under huge conditions, because it's back to the helmet is not going to be, you're not going to change out for a different one when it's 32 degrees at the start of big league, 50 to below outside of no. And some of the stuff, and I got to tell you, when I was first starting out, you'd hear this stuff and you'd go, yeah, right. So they said, remember, and I heard it once, they go, the vent on the front, close it or open it, and on the back side. And you think, yeah, right. That little pee hole is going to do nothing. Are you kidding me? And it was like, out the door. When you're going 80 miles an hour down a river and it's 40 below, that pee hole feels like a blizzard ripping a hole through your forehead with the worst ice cream headache you could possibly imagine. And then you say, I think I'm going to remember, and it goes for me, in, out of the cold. Go in on the front, out on the back to get out of the cold on the shoey helmet. But figure out what works. If you're using a full helmet, and I just heard about this from another, people are fighting around figuring out how they're closing vents and how they're figuring out this vent stuff. And the one team has got everything just taped off and capped off and figuring out how to close all those vents, which are great when it's warm, not so great when it's cold. And then the other team said to the other, you know, they make a skull cap insert that's a wind blocker that sits inside the helmet, that you don't have to change the vents at all. You just put that little cap in there, and there was a oh moment, because they didn't even know that existed. So we learn from each other. It was a constant education. Got the mask, got this one. If you call me for advice on GPS, I'm going to defer you to someone who's really good at it, because I am not. That is one of my weak links, and I've got to get better at it and get consistent. I will tell you, I'm learning my lesson that you need to lock. For me, I had to lock the screen on a touch screen, because I'll bump a button and screw it up. But you need how to use this in every other situation before race day, because it's going to be race time, and you're going to get excited, you're going to forget to load the right maps in and everything else. Having been lost several times on the trail in training practice situation, and having the troops called out to find me and my knucklehead partner, it would be helpful. Also note that the trail may be different than what's in your GPS. We came off a riverbank, and there was a super highway marked line of which way you're supposed to go, but we're going to follow the GPS, because that's the line on the GPS. The trail wasn't open yet because the river wasn't frozen. We get to this next spot, and we look down, and nobody's been by there, it looked like in 2 years. And we're thinking, this could be to no man's land, we're not turning around. And by then, we're at bingo point, and we have to turn back, go all the way back, get more gas, come back down and figure out what's going on. And weigh in on this, because you've been down this
no,
road too.
Yeah, these are good GPS. This is the 608. We use a 580. A lot of people use these, so I don't know if you have for GPS, but these are, I would recommend due to the fact almost everyone on the trail uses these. So if you need a new battery, if your battery wears out, it's a good thing. Get a big USB because you're gonna want to save your tracks. I've been not so smart the last 2 years, and I've been up the trail twice, and I have no tracks to Nome and to Fairbanks because of not having a big enough USB or little SIM card in there to save everything. Also, use your GPS, get familiar with it, trust it. 2 years ago, our rookie year, we ran to the coast, or got onto the ocean ice, and it was blowing 30 miles an hour sideways, and all the stakes just stopped. Our GPS said go this way. You could see some skag marks going this way. We spent 20 minutes doing circles until we realized, okay, just follow your GPS, go north, or go whatever way you need to go, and eventually you'll run into tracks and stuff. We're the only people out there normally in the trail, so there will be tracks, unless you're in the front. So that's kind of my trust your GPS. That's the biggest thing.
But know how to use it.
Yeah.
Just back to the gear issue. So I typically will have, 3 layers on. Just regular underwear. This one was the quarter defender. They don't make anymore. And then the tactical pant, and then the bibs. But figure out what's going to work. I mean, it's such a little thing as underwear. Back to cotton kills. Figure out the polypro or whatever style of stuff's going to work. Yeah, something that wicks. Don't sell yourself short on those little details. And be ready to be adaptable too, which is back to the layering. So when it gets cold, and the trick we learned, and I think most people say the same thing, your lower body can accommodate variation much better. So you can overdress the bottom, you can't overdress the top. But when it gets cold, you're kind of a heat sink. So the extra layer, and this one I think it's the Inferno by Klein, is another layer that comes over the top to protect. And you're just watching those vents. And it was McKenna. I used to see him riding down the trail at Big Lake, and he looked like Superman, but it works for me too. I unzip my pants from the bottom up, and then that gives me a vent on the bottom. Unzip my coat, and I kind of have this Superman cape, but you're cooling off. And that short 16 miles to hit the first river, if you're totally sweaty now, as you go further north past Shell Lake, and then as you pass through the mountains by Reading Pass, it will drop 40 degrees on that first day. Don't wipe yourself out on that. It's part of that.
I'd recommend throwing a little piece of duct tape on your zippers because when you got gloves on, it's hard to find a little zipper. Going up and down. We like to use the underarm. That's a lot. I would also recommend on your mandatory extra layers that you have to carry with you. Have your partner carry it because you never know if your sled goes into the water or whatever. He'll have your extra set of clothes and they'll be dry hopefully. That's a recommendation. You don't have to do it, but I would carry my own clothes on my sled. So if my sled went into the ocean or into a creek or river, you wouldn't want to be. Hopefully your partner's a little closer to the same size because
His partner's a monster.
yeah,
So.
my partner's 6'2", 6'3", and so I guess worst case scenario I'll be dry and warm. He might have a hard time though.
I was in the same boat, and I raced with Stan English, and Stan is 6'6", 6'7", and I go to put his coat on just for something to do. I mean, it's non-functional for me, and he's like holding up my coat like a little baby jacket, and it's not so switching it out helpful. This one is the thermo climb, just another layer. When you're up going west-east past Nome and then closer to Fairbanks, it's impressive how cold you can get in the wind. And I'd say Nome is amazing because you can talk about it, but being out when it's 40 below and the wind is coming at you sideways because you're going 60 or 70 miles an hour, is a new concept. I mean, you're turning hard to stay in a straight line, and the wind, you'd think, why do I have a windshield? I should unbolt it and pivot it at a 90 degree. And it changes your hands, it changes how you've got wind down on the side and back of your neck that you never experienced before. So you'll figure it out pretty quick, but if you don't stop and do something about it. And that's the thing, stop, if you're cold, stop before it becomes more of a problem. Take advantage. You definitely need the sleeping bag. It's got to be to minus 20 below. Down is pretty much the way to go because it's packable. Remember, it's not going to be at minus 20 below keeping you warm and toasty. It'll probably keep you alive. And then make sure you're uncompressing it in between. Almost everyone uses vacuum bags inside the sub sacks on the backside to be able to compress it low enough. You'll be kind of amazed at the one little bag. It's the middle one there. Is enough to get that. Usually we'll put our siphon hose, a couple spare caps, our fuel bars in it. It's amazing what you can stuff in there if you do it right. Trying to think of other things to recap. Sarah, did we cover his list?
Flares, I know we didn't mention anything about flares, but I mean, we do new flares every year just due to the fact we've had flares not work before, not that we needed them, but that's something cheap and reliable. A lot of people now use the little lasers. Those are pretty cool. We haven't messed with those, but those are obviously smaller than the 3 flares you have to have. Other than that, I think we're pretty covered. I guess practicing wise, you'll get into the drama of Iron Dog, and it happens every year. You need to do this, you need to do that. Somebody will call you and say, did you check this, did you check that? Run your own race, you know, I mean, there's people that you can talk to and believe in, but some people pull your leg, you know, or if it didn't happen to you, you know, don't go changing your sled the night before. I've ran into shock issues the night before the race, go try out the sleds and it rides like crap, and you're freaking out because you just, go with what you practice and practice what you're going to race with. Run in bad weather, practice in bad weather, it sucks, I know, but both years I've raced it, and Larry's raced it a few more times than I have. It's been super nice on days, and then the next day is snowing sideways, and you can't see more than 10 feet in front of you, and it sucks when you go out there and you don't, you didn't ever ride in that, and your goggles start fogging up because it's something, you're sweating, or, your gear's not working right, or like you said, you can't keep the sled in a straight line. So practice in the worst conditions too. I don't know, it sucks. We've been multiple times to the river and like, it ain't worth it, it ain't worth it. But you never know. You can go 10 miles up the river and all of a sudden it gets bluebird again.
And that part bears repeating because you're going to get sucked into that whole thing about the race, and here's something else that you think is going to be the defining moment between having this dream of being number 1 in the race, let alone finishing. The goal, as if it's your first race, is finish and finish healthy. That finishing healthy is an issue because my first partner, essentially a career-ending injury. It was problematic. We scratched with a broken arm, and that broken arm cost him his career. So his wife was not necessarily forgiving me over that whole thing, but he was the one who talked me into it, so I just gotta say that. But you get sucked into this vortex of what you need to do. And my wife tells me that I need a non-rookie year where I'm doing this and not getting sucked into the hype of it. Because I will tell you, last year, we decided we needed spare A-arms attached to our machine. We'd been working on it for about 4 months, had not come up with anything that worked. We said, and we were convinced we needed that. We had 5 pretty handy guys in my garage up at Big Lake trying to figure out how to get an A-arm on the back of that machine. And finally, after much to do, I said, let's go back to the original that we had it where we knew it worked. And if you want to strap anything on top of that, go for it. Figure out how you're going to do the bungees, the ratchet, whatever else. But don't mess with the other stuff and don't make it so it's going to rip off. Those A-arms did not make it off the Big Lake Trail on the race day. We spent 6 hours just before the race in panic mode figuring out how to do a new thing, getting those A-arms attached to that machine, which is the most stupid rookie mistake, and I don't seem to learn. So you guys are free to slap me around and say, rookie mistake if I bring something nutty up just before the race. But you'll find it happens. Just be careful. Learn from our mistakes.
Yeah, don't be that team. Before I raced, I felt, but don't be the team that's working on their sleds the night before the race, staying up till midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning, because you weren't prepared, I guess. I've done it myself. You know, you're sitting there cutting holes and doing tracks, putting on graphics, and try to get that stuff done a week before the race, or whatever your time frame is. 'Cause there's nothing worse. I've started that race with 3 hours of sleep, and you feel it by McGrath, and you start doing dumb things. When you're going through the burn and all that stuff. So just you gotta prepare yourself. Like I said, don't fall in that drama of Iron Dog. We got some of these top elite teams that have no budgets. You don't have to do what they do to be competitive. You'll try, and I've done it. I've worked out plenty of money because I had to have bad parts, and it didn't help. It doesn't. So that's one thing. Don't follow the drama. Drama's a big deal on Iron Dog. And don't change anything when you show up to it was on Cabela's. You all of a sudden you see these other sleds that have a little something different, or don't go and change it unless you're 100% sure or have tried it yourself. I've also done that before. Change stuff because you saw somebody else, other team did it, and it didn't work out. It never does, it seems like.
Sarah, can we do our list?
You're the one with the list, man.
Are we good?
I think so. Actually, we were just talking about we need a break. So if you guys want to take a break real quick, we'll come back in a couple minutes. Bathrooms over here, coffee. If you need any of those things, now's your opportunity.
Yeah.
We'll have
When you, yes.
Sir, do you have any double A's? Do you have any double A's?
Good job, guy.
Lunch, thank you.
But still, why not?
I'm sure you guys were testing stuff last night.
Right. No, because
Yeah. And good installation. Yes, compared to what the stock one was. That's what the only, I'm waiting to hear back from Troy.
Hey, this is what I concentrate working with them are. Yeah,
And then I was talking to him about Peter. And then I also, I don't know, okay, if it's too tight or whatever, so you can talk about it all the time, so you're not Well, and then I was talking to him, because I know the first year we ran with Peter, like, this is like my first, I actually had to add a weight to, because it was a washer weight, and then I'm,
How much was it?
Yeah.
And then I know that dial, I told him to go the wrong way.
At first it was.
And then
Then
I
you change shops where you work. Yeah, you said one. That doesn't make sense.
I went, yeah, the wrong way too. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, he's like, alright, we'll try it. So I went to one.
Yeah, we-
67 on
Yeah, went the wrong way. Yep.
Definitely not it. But you shouldn't have to.
No. We'd actually changed him. He seems really good. That's why I gave him. Yeah, I did make him. He would actually take dials, I think, 1 to 2. And I don't know if it was wrong.
Yeah, his moves too. His, I don't know how
I'm playing around
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, we got broken bushing. He's like, oh yeah, right there. And I was like, well, we never sit on this one, but yeah, that one's also broken. Like, dude, out of this room. And we messed with his about 8,000 out of his from like 75. We got it up to with new belts and whatnot, but his was more than that. It's the his watch is very built.
Yeah. Because I've also had the problems where I lost my old chat. And then just being worn out, you know, for the places like that.
Probably.
Recover from last night.
I dropped mine down to 3.
Yeah,
I was over revving. Yeah. Yesterday I went out on 4 and it was hitting me 84, so I dropped down to 81, 82.
So I want to just.
Yeah. But I had that used belt that wouldn't do it.
Take your clutch, you don't throw it on.
Yeah. Diagnosed as a clutch issue? Yeah. Yeah. Foothills Drive?
Yeah.
So back way. Where? Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, so
oh, you said you answered the phone.
on that straight stretch.
Is he writing?
Camera itself. Pull that.
And then if you're keeping on,
Try to keep it so it doesn't coil. So go ahead and put the tables down. With my here, please. And move that chair. And then pull it up.
Yeah.
so some of the stuff
Sir, I might ask you to, sir.
Okay, right on now. I've heard the name and stuff.
I might ask you to stand up for a couple minutes. We're going to move it over. And it's going to go right on.
Yeah, Caleb, Don,
So I'm going to move this over and bring that to Neil.
Yeah, get that.
Yeah, I went to because the gear was out there, so I went down there and did it for Dan.
Yesterday wasn't so hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, the spark plug. I never changed the spark plug.
I've changed it on my super like water. Yeah,
No,
like
that's
McLaren's. I had one that was the weirdest thing going along, and I threw them in, and I had to like argue with them to get this selfie. No, and I'm like, dude, I'm going to whole pile of them.
Yeah.
Shit, I was going down the trail. Felt like I lost a cylinder. I'm gonna check it. I don't know what else to check.
Yeah.
They'll be open here. And I was like, after that, like, I would carry it.
Yeah, it's not.
What it is.
You don't want to change it, obviously.
No, especially if you have the wrong tools. Or not the right tools. I told Dan, well, I know we need that toolkit.
Yeah, that's the best way to figure it out. We've never changed the plug on that.
No, I don't think we would, but we had to get them out.
I know, like, they changed the plug last year with all the
Really?
problems they had, like, on the trail, and they're like, I mean, you could tape it. I think the newer ones, though, they have them different. I don't know if it's kind of different. we had picked up a race list. I noticed that this came up in my commit to the year I really needed. So I was looking at maybe, yeah.
Did you go through late, Brad?
And that's that smell.
So,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I know it's
Well, it will be. I'm gonna open it up.
you got power somewhere close to here besides this little weird funky.
We're gonna change that. Go back to the terrestrial. Cut a little slight. It's nice to have it high up. Higher than that. Yes.
You have a problem right here that's gonna end up.
These things
Yep.
over, it's expensive.
Yeah, I can see
Everything
that.
destroys.
Flights, we went out Saturday to have one, and then we swapped sleds, they had one of it. Yeah, why didn't you have, just have it on? First was ready, so now let's go for a ride, with that slot light and stuff, and we're like, no. I go, what are you doing? I go, because you can't see that, I go, it's like being blindfolded. Yeah. You don't realize how much of a difference it makes.
Oh, I know, but this is.
Are you guys using each of these LEDs too, or just silver?
Yeah, there is. I just had stock.
I like it. I mean, it's I like it. I've never really tried LEDs, but I know like when you start snowing apps off and stuff, and you're riding your hiker spot, that little yellow kind of helps me see. You know, because it's like driving with HIDs in the snow in your truck, and you're like, oh, this sucks. I can't see nothing. But yeah, it's a reflection.
This time down, everybody's getting ready to do this, and then when the race starts, I can't see.
And you guys went out at all?
Yeah, I've just been out just messing around by myself.
Doesn't seem like it's too, no, shouldn't be in a hurry.
Yeah,
If we were gonna try to go out today, but it's like,
So you're doing
Right,
anytime?
is that, is he still working quite a bit?
Yeah, you've been working nights.
Those guys,
And using flight for that.
can I be changing? You've been up. Okay, so coming off the Happy River, and that side hill, all the way to the top.
That's good.
Went through that the same thing.
Drop down into
That's it. That one.
I'm not.
What would that end up meaning? It's not very.
Put the feeder out
16 dogs in a
Probably a
sled.
feeder out. Just, you know, get that set up, so it's on, don't touch it. Anywhere you went, any condition.
That's amazing.
Waited all year for that.
Yeah.
And so I figured, you know, that it's already set up.
Yeah. The core would be the one. That's who. I mean, it's funny because we didn't change any culture in there, so like any.
Yeah, because it's that cycle. That's like the longest cycle.
Yeah, couldn't find the part number.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it's because of being a number. But then again, the P drive is part number, so it should be part numbers or whatever.
Yeah. No, we're. You know, I couldn't wait to do that because it would straighten my body out.
Oh, okay.
That is like.
Yeah.
So this is just our
This is my feet were going
and then it cuts down right down.
Stay out of the way.
And this solid parts close up all the holes, runs over now.
I don't realize I'm Christian.
Yeah, yeah. I have new guys.
Okay, nice.
No good. And for a while, Scott, and I think you can get him again. Scott had a this guy got the costume. Smith. Yeah. Smith stopped selling it. And it's just the weirdest thing. My head.
All right, guys, we're gonna hop back on the schedule here.
You figured something out. These weren't Oakley I'm always ran Tuesdays.
How are you, Fish?
Like it's been fun.
So welcome back to the Woody's Workshop for the Iron Dog 2019 race. Just want to take a couple minutes to thank some really important people, and those are our sponsors and volunteers and race officials. and staff by the name of Sarah Miller, Joe Tilley. First and foremost, I want to thank Woody's for putting on the rookie workshop. They've been a great partner for years. They supply some great traction devices, so check them out. We're always here to support our sponsors. Also, Donlin Gold is a major sponsor. We really appreciate their long-term sponsorship, and they're back in this year. They're sponsoring the Donlin Gold Safety Expo up in the Menard Center. Amsoil is the official oil of the Iron Dog race again this year. They've stepped up even further than they did last year, so you guys give them run that oil. Klein is our official outerwear sponsor. They've done a very good job in years past. Sometimes we get deals. It's some of the best equipment out there, in my opinion. Hatcher Pass Polaris, they've been a sponsor for years and years and years. They, in addition to their cash sponsorship, they've donated a sled for the raffle. It's a 2017 600 Switchback Pro S. It's an awesome sled. You can win that, just the price of a ticket. White Spruce jumped back in with their trailer for the raffle as well. It's a 10-foot, 2-place trailer kit. Johnson Investments, they've donated a half acre of land for our raffle. We're doing a raffle this year where we raffle off a half acre of land and a tiny house or a cabin kit, caribou cabin kit, donated by Spinar Builder Supply. So we hope that's going to be a fun raffle to have. The tickets are going great. Get yours while you can. Bailey's has hopped in with the raffle for a $2,500 gift card. That'll help supply your homestead that you win out there with generators and weed whippers. And TMCC has a $1,000 shopping spree, and they're part of the raffle as well. Cabela's is donating a $1,000 gift card for the person who sells the winning ticket. And Keith Modernock and Specialty Truck and Auto has donated $1,000 for the person who sells the most tickets, the person or agency who sells the most tickets. So you guys know Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, AMVETS, whoever that can get out and sell tickets in mass. It's a key component of funding the Iron Dog this year, in addition to our sponsors. ACS is our data and telephone sponsor this year. They've done a great job getting the office phones hooked up, and we've got some faster internet than we've had before, so we're loving it. We're able to live stream thanks to the South High media students. They do a great job. They're probably some of the hardest working sponsors. They go with us to Anchorage, to Wasilla, to Big Lake, to Nome, to Fairbanks. Their work is very appreciated. Usually it goes unnoticed, but they're bringing the race into your guys' house right now. Everett's Air Cargo, they're a fantastic sponsor. They do a lot of shipping for us. Galena, we get sleds flown in there. We get people, we get food for the people in the checkpoints flown in there. And Nome, they backhaul the trail class. Hopefully they're not going to backhaul any pro class sleds this year because they're all going to wind up in Fairbanks, so that's the goal. Northern Air Cargo is one of our original sponsors. They've been with the race just about since it started. They do amazing work, and we go to many of our communities we pass through. Monster Energy Drink, of course, Odom. You guys grab a Monster drink, keep you fueled for the race there. Linden Air Cargo is another great air cargo partner. They've been around for a long time. We would be very remiss if we didn't mention Alaska Spine Institute. Larry Levine, thank you, sir, for your sponsorship for years. We appreciate that. Carlisle is a great shipping partner as well. They run a lot of stuff around town. They run the stuff up to Fairbanks. We get a couple of containers up there with all the gear that we bring here. Alaska Industrial Hardware, they've supplied us with vests and stakes and safety equipment. They've been around for a while. They also do contingency prizes for the racers. Subway, we're going to be eating some Subway soon. We'll have they're sponsoring the halfway banquet in Nome for the trail class and for the pro guys. KTUU, they've been very generous with some of their commercial time. They're going to be covering the race, as is most of the media out there. We're finishing this year at Pikes Waterfront Lodge, which is great. We finished there for years before, and they've really stepped up. They're going to host the after party. They're going to help us out with the awards banquet at Pikes Waterfront. And it's really a fun finish. It's going to be a great time. City of Wasilla and the Menard Sports Center have really kind of stepped up. They're giving us a great reduction on the rental of the hall. It's going to be a fun Friday up there. Top Notch Accessories, Jen and Darren, they have all your lighting and accessory needs. Go check them out. Our landlords, and really a great checkpoint volunteer, Debenham Properties. Ray, if you guys ever been through Galena, you know Ray Debenham. He's probably the first one there to meet you. He won't be out in Galena this year, but he kind of comes by the office, so we make sure he's a part of it still. So. Crowley Fuels, of course, that's what keeps you guys rolling. Those guys have been a great sponsor for years. Army Recruiting just came on this year. We're excited to have those folks. And we have our express checkpoint near Tanana or Cochran's Alaska Fuel Distributors. They sponsored that checkpoint entirely, so thank them as you roll on by. Alaska Warning Lights has been a big sponsor. They give us stakes and vests as well. Vision X is coming back as a lighting sponsor. If you guys need lights, they're great folks to work with. And really, probably most importantly, every checkpoint volunteer, every office volunteer that comes in, Fish, you've been great. You're probably the hardest working volunteer we've got so far. So we really appreciate those folks. It takes a huge amount of volunteers to come on the race. And if I've missed any sponsors, I'm sure I have. They're all fantastic. We're taking solicitations for sponsorship, so if you guys know anybody, please send them my way or Sarah's way. We'll take good care of them. So now we have the raffle is a big part of it. We're going to have various raffle locations where we're going to have the sled and the trailer and the picture of the property and the picture of the cabin and some of the other stuff there. We're going to go to various venues and have these little kind of raffle sales ticket parties. I know we have one slated for Fairbanks Chevrolet. They've been a great partner. They donated a set of 4 Blizzaks. We're going to park the sled and the trailer up in their showroom in Fairbanks, and one of our board members, Roger Brown, there is going to run that. He's selling tickets like crazy, so buy the tickets from me so I can catch up with Roger. Most of the tickets are for sale at almost all the dealers around town and around the state. Most of them should be supplied with tickets by now. In various locations around Anchorage and Fairbanks will have to. Friends of the Iron Dog are all trying to sell tickets. Just a little bit on the event schedule. February 13th for any trail folks, Hatcher Pass Polaris is hosting the Trail Tech. I think it's 7:30. I'll have that posted on the website as soon as I confirm with Chris Graver, Hatcher Pass. But we'll meet there on the 13th and have you guys get your tech check there. On February 15th, we're moving the Dawn of Gold Safety Expo, the Racers Draw Banquet, and all of the safety informational events are going to happen Friday at the Menard Center in Wasilla. It's going to be a full day. We'll have tech check in the morning. Then we'll open the doors to the public around noon or 1. We'll have the food and the racer drawing kind of going on at the same time, so it's going to be a good, intimate kind of mingle with your friends and family affair there. And then, the Dawn of Gold Safety Expo, their slogan, every person going home safe and healthy every day, and I would love to adopt that slogan for the Iron Dog race in 2019. I really want you guys to be safe out there. That's the key driving factor here. And then the draw is going to be on the same day. Then on the 17th, Sunday, we'll do the race start at Big Lake. That should be a good show. We're trying to cobble together the flying iron. Looks like it's going to be a go. I just need a few more details before we can make that official, but that's always a fun show. And that'll probably happen Saturday before the race at Big Lake and Sunday right after the pro class start on Sunday. February 20th, we'll have the Nome halfway banquet. Specifically for the trail class finishers will be there. Subway sponsoring that. Everett's is buying some stuff for us. Northern Air Cargo is going to do some great stuff. Bering Sea Racing Lions have already donated their money for the racers who come across there, the contingency prizes. A lot of folks helping up there, specifically board member Jenny Emmons, who's just an amazing person. And then on the 23rd in Fairbanks, we finish at Pikes Waterfront Lodge. And hopefully we get a huge percentage of finishers this year. And they'll have a pretty good finish. I don't know if you guys have ever been to the Pikes Waterfront Lodge finish. It's a great time. They're very hospitable. It's kind of a nice, close, intimate setting where the racers are right there and the crowds are right there. And then, so opportunities for live stream. Yeah, we'll have the Dawn of Gold Expo. The South kids will Some students will live stream that. They'll be live streaming the Pro Start at Big Lake. They'll be live streaming the Gnome Garage again. That's always fun to see how fast these guys can wrench. And they'll be live streaming the Fairbanks finish at Pikes. And so we just had this happen here, and it worked out beautifully. If anybody has a technical question, clothing, machinery, parts, aftermarket parts, I can't answer that question. The staff can't answer that question. The board cannot answer that question. The only people who can give you the firm answer are the race marshals. Brian Webb is here. Thank you very much. And we also have Dave Bathke, who will be in here as well a little later. And our race marshal in Nome is Derek Martin. So just to be clear, if you have anything that relates to the race and whether you're going to win, play, show, not start, get DQ'd, anything that affects your race, talk to the marshals. And the timers, again, we have the brilliant Jake Goodell and his sidekick Tim Harrington. We're really happy to have these guys back. They've been watching the minutes and seconds for you guys for a number of years. So. And to that end, I'd like to turn over to Brian again to talk about the snow machine and what it takes to get to the finish line.
Right on. So I'll go over a few, I guess, basic things. I'm sure you guys all know. At least for skidoos. First off, skis preference. I know a lot of people run different things. Don't go out. We run like an 8-inch single in the middle and a 4-inch on the outsides. Practice what you're going to run, of course. I know Chris always mentioned there'll be years where all of a sudden you'll change it at the last minute because you want a little more grip or it's pushing in the corner, so you want to change it. You change it right before the race, and the next thing you know, you get to the burn and you're wore out because you're sitting there trying to turn 2 more inches of carbide. It might not sound like much, but it's a whole lot. Me being a smaller guy, I run with my partner runs, but there's times where he runs a lot bigger stuff, and if I get on his sled, it's just too much to handle for long periods of time. Something to work out. I'm sure your guys' sleds will all be close to the same, minus suspension wise. Going to bags really is kind of the big one. This is my big bag. It hooks into my link system. Couple straps over it, just in case it decides to come off the link system. This is what I take to every checkpoint. It has extra pair of clothes, socks, couple miscellaneous tools, hygiene I try to keep on my body. I know we talked about that earlier. Try to keep a toothbrush and some toothbrush, toothpaste, basic things. Some people don't like to take things off when they get. I mean, it's a pain in the butt if you go through a bunch of snow and stuff. This thing gets stuck on there pretty good. You're sitting there kicking, cussing at it. I've had times where it took me 2 minutes to get this bag off. Sucks, but it's nice having clothes, and it's nice to get a nice shower. Gauntlets. These are Doug Dixon's famous gauntlet. You guys can take a look at it if you want. I would recommend. We don't do it, but if we're going to, I know they already talked about it, but there's you could do holes through it to tie it up to make it smaller. Mine always work like just on how the works with the air. Mine always work off to like that. So then you're going down the trail and you're only using 8 inches of your big gauntlet. I use tape. Yeah, these are taped up. I put tape around the ends of it to hold it on the end of the bar. There's a little bar strap. Just something to keep it on there. That suspension wise, I'll let you guys do it. You guys know what to do. I go through Team CC, of course they do a lot of good suspension work. They have a lot of specs and a lot of riders, so they have good feedback for suspension. Studs, I know in the rules it says 2 studs per bar. Nowadays you see a lot more people running the outside studs due to ice. When you get to the coast, There's been times where there's a bunch of snow, and then there's been times where it's pure ice. I would recommend running outside studs if you can. Practice with them though, because it does change. It grabs a lot more, and make sure you get your ski carbides and your studs dialed in, because more studs means it's going to push a lot harder in the corners. Less studs, vice versa. For skidoos, personally, we don't do a whole lot for reinforcing. A couple grip and rip races. The high faxes, Yamaha, DuPont makes really good high faxes. I would recommend putting those on all your sleds, your practice sleds, and this. I've put on 6,000 miles on sleds on the same high faxes, so you won't ever have to worry about them. That's going through snow, dirt, anything really. Other than that, I mean, you got your lighting brackets, your tanks. That's the only thing I'm missing. There's a few people I use Low and Fine. John Eicher out in the valley. He makes really good tanks, really good light brackets. Alaska Sheet Metal does really good work. Chris McDowell. I would really recommend, if you don't ride with your tanks, we never seem to do because we're always the last minute. Put weight. We have a little link tank, 3-gallon link tank I fill up to act as weight in the back. You'd be surprised. You throw on that sleeping bag and this and back here, and it's going to ride different than not having nothing back here. And that's only whatever, 3 pounds, 4 pounds. Try to get the weight you're going to run with or close to it on the back of your sled. I know Claire says you can get a lot more up front. Not sure with Arctic Cats, but if there's going to be weight back here, try to have equally amount of weight as your race sled's going to be, because it will ride 100% different. Another thing I was going to go back to with Larry, we were talking about, I recommend bringing cash on the trail with you. First off, your living expenses aren't paid for when you get out there.
Can you talk a little bit about the tanks and how you plumb them in, and then also sometimes your decision to take fuel versus not take fuel in your aux tanks?
Yep.
And then maybe touch on the lights, the auxiliary lights, when you like to run them, when you don't like to run them, pros and cons of each.
Yeah, so, I mean, we might have to ask Zach for players, but Skidoo tanks, you got a little vent up top here. We usually drill them out, and there's a little flapper, one-way valve. We drill those out. So we come in with one, you hit one, that's going to be your feed, then you do an air to your tank, on whatever side you want to do. And then that will be the feed, a pickup on this side. And then we run another piece of fuel line all the way up and all the way, and that goes to the main vent. I think it vents out up here somewhere. We like to run, there's different preferences. We like to run a sealed cap on one tank and a vented cap on the end of line tank, due to the fact if that vent line ever gets pinched, you'll still have a vent on your last tank, so it will still draw and it won't suck in your tank. We've had that problem before. We pinched a line last year. We changed a fuel pump and we pinched a line and we ran out like 2 times before we out of gas before we realized, and it will suck the tank in, and it's not good. Not good on the motors, not good on anything. So that's that. You can ask me any questions if you have any plumbing needs. Some people like a hardline plumb. Some people just use normal gasket with fuel line right in it. Give it a little spring and a screen on as a pickup. Either way works. Some have the screw in 90s, and there's pros or cons about that. I've never had it, but I've heard people breaking off the screw in 90 off the top of the tank. Don't crash is my suggestion on that. But and then if you run a soft line, you catch a tree, it pulls it out or whatever. It's easy to fix though. You just put it back in. So that auxiliary light.
Before you go there, the comment about when you need fuel or not, there'll be certain mileages between places, but you got to know if there's a fresh snow, if there's a lot of snow, and you were planning all year and we're wide open throttle and you're getting 8 miles a gallon, if you're pushing snow, you may be down to about 4 miles.
I know we like with our auxiliary tanks and our main tank, we can carry about 15 gallons, 15 to 16 gallons. That's kind of where we judge. Larry does a really awesome job. I hope he does it again. He usually prints out stickers with mileages and hands them out at the expo. Those are very helpful. And they are a reference. The trail changes every year, so sometimes you can zigzag, and it's 80 miles instead of 65. So we like to use that. We kind of highlight where we need to have extra fuel. If you have a question with, oh, I might run out, or this is going to be close, just fuel up. We ran out of gas twice last year, 3 times. It is not fun, and towing sucks. And it's just, yeah, it's not worth it. It's not worth the time. You gain, what, a couple pounds throwing a little extra fuel in. So I would recommend doing that.
Yeah, on that, excuse me, on that burning fuel, you got to remember your lead guy is going to burn more fuel than you, especially if you get stuck, because that lead guy's got to come back 5 miles and then head out another 5 miles. That's 5, 10, 15 miles he traveled while you're sitting there stuck. So you got to keep, like he said, keep an eye on your gas of the lead guy, or swap out lead guys every once in a while. So.
And I know I'm very one for watching my fuel gauge. If you start thinking you're going to get low on fuel, just back it off. You back it off 2,000 RPMs, 1,000 RPMs. You go from 80 to 60. You're going to make a tremendous amount. You'll be able to last so much longer, riding wise. And and if you're leading and you start running low on fuel, let the other guy jump in front and lead for a little bit. He is gonna have more fuel than you.
So on the other side of the coin, we do have a contingency prize this year by Tommy Germany, who got the Red Lantern Award last year. Just an amazing guy with Tri-State Disposal. He's offering up a contingency prize for whoever finishes with the most mileage. So check your odometer before you leave, check your odometer at the finish line, and then talk to Tommy. And this will interest you, Larry. He also is offering a $1,000 prize for whoever scratches closest to the finish. We don't want that, but he's offering a little, hopefully that'll take the edge off a little bit.
And also with the fuel, if you're not at the lead of the pack and the trail's already packed in, you're not going to burn as much fuel too. So there's so many different variables. I mean, there's teams, that's where strategy starts coming into play, where if you're packing trail, you're going to burn more fuel, but then the guy 2 places behind you, they're going to have a better trail. So they may not have to fill up all the way. So.
Yeah, and I think the other guys should weigh in on this too, because we're all different. I think an absolute rookie issue in there that we've learned from is figuring out how close you need to be to somebody. When you're on the sheet ice and it's slick, don't take out 2 machines at once because you're falling too close. If you're in the snow dust, been there, done that, where you can't see where you're going, and there's a turn that's a 90-degree turn, and you don't know about it because your partner just screams on the radio and you didn't know what that scream meant, that there was a turn there, you need to back off so you can see it, which is why the extra LEDs with extra lights. But I'll also tell you that there are times, a lot of them, where instead of, at least for us, instead of riding 3 miles apart, and worrying about someone else getting stuck, especially when you're old and bald, having someone there to pull your ski and not trying to unstick your machine by yourself is a huge, huge energy expenditure. And you want to count on that. So if you're in the trees and it's a lot of snow, that may be the spot where you guys are 20 yards apart, because you don't want to be walking through waist-deep snow to go help pull on. And it's going to be like that, where you're getting stuck every few minutes. And that one, stick together. Don't try and do it alone. You're a team, and that part's going to be helpful. I'd also, and hopefully this doesn't happen to anybody, but I would tell you, don't necessarily do the test, but figure out how to start your machine after it's been dipped in the water. Because you can save yourself half a day of energy and effort if you know some of the tricks.
I got a little bit to add too on the, when you're going through checkpoints and everything, rookie teams and everything, you pull into the checkpoint and you see the front runners sitting there taking a layover, or you see a 20 teams sitting in the paddock there taking layovers. Don't fuel up and take off. Something's going on up at the trail. There's 10 feet of snow or there's 5 miles of open water. See what's going on. Use your head and think, hey, should I take off or should I go see what's going on? You just, that's your call, but I made that mistake myself.
Yeah. Yeah. We're in the lead. This is
We're
awesome.
in the lead.
I don't know that was so awesome, Coach Spurnack.
Another thing with your partner, what we did is like we did our last names of back park coats. We did it with reflector material because if there's snow dust, you don't really necessarily always see the tail light.
And you crash.
So headlights and everything, you just when they make a corner, your headlight will glance over and you'll just see them. So it's just one of those things you just kind of still pace, you just kind of understand it because there's nothing on the back of us that's reflective at all.
That is a beautiful point.
We put reflective diamonds on the back of our helmet, so I had one, Brian had two, and Dave had three, so we knew who we were behind.
And that's, it has happened multiple times, and you need to know this. Make sure you're following your partner, because it's happened over and over. Someone picks up someone else, and they go another 20 miles, and they are not with their partner. And if you can't get to a checkpoint without your partner, by the way. And if you leave them somewhere in the middle of a trail and think it's not going to be a martial decision of saying you left your partner in harm's way, they're going to have that discussion because I didn't do that, but we saw it.
Plus, a lot of times that trail is just one sled trail. You don't want to go back the other direction on the trail.
I saw a guy delivering parts a couple years ago into Rome. There was some ice and everybody wiped out their front A-arms. And we were all going through the burn and 25 miles an hour through the burn is fast, 30 miles an hour pushing it. And there's a guy from Nikolai coming the opposite way. And you never go the opposite way through the burn. And so you just fall up that hill and here comes this guy with a beaver hat, just putting along. And it's a miracle he didn't get killed. Because it's just one trail. Yeah. It's narrow. So you gotta do it.
That's another thing. If you do have to go back the other way on the trail, be respectful and we're all racing in one direction. You know, if you're coming back to get parts from a plane or whatever, be careful because I know I'm not thinking about somebody coming the other way when I'm racing down the trail. You know, if you're going the direction you should be going. And that goes along with if somebody catches you on the first day, let them by, or let them by is my opinion. There's many people that you'll find out that won't let you by, or that will try to race you. And if they caught you, they're already faster than you. Just let them by. If you want to try to match their pace when you get in front of you. That's the last thing you want to do is either be slowing the team down behind you. I mean, I've heard and seen, you know, if you slow somebody down enough, they get mad enough, they're going to go out and they're going to hit you in the back, break your tail light, and then the next checkpoint you have to be fixing the tail light. You have to leave every checkpoint with the tail light, headlight, and windshield. So that's something you don't want to do, and you know, it's just going to piss people off. Is all it's going to do, and not help you out. And if you're trying to stay in front of them, you're going to be right over your head normally, and if you know, then you crash, make errors, hit a tree, it just escalates. It's a snowball effect. I know, back to like following things, my partner follows me right out of my snow dust. When I'm following, I follow him on his taillight because I read his taillight better instead of being back and seeing it myself. I just watch his taillight and whatever happens is what I go off.
I got something to add too. Beware of the locals. Be respectful of the locals. They're out there. They're going to their trap lines. They're going out to get wood. They're going out to get water. They're running their dogs. They know the iron dog is in race mode and they're coming through, but they're still running their dogs on the trail. Let them. That's their trail. We're using it. They're letting us use their trails. Be respectful. I've come up on many dog teams. I've come up on locals without headlights. holding children in front, traveling down a trail going to their cabin. Be respectful, don't yell at them. If they make you get stuck or whatnot and they just drive on by, wave at them, say have a good day. Don't yell at them, this is their trail. Just be respectful.
There will be, as a rookie, that was our hardest thing, is coming into checkpoints and stuff. It's not always marked on your GPS. It's, you know, I don't know where you get your tracks from, but I know coming into like Galena last year, a lot of teams, and the only reason we knew is because we raced it the year before, but there was a marked trail going straight and there was a marked trail going left. And the right way to go was left, because if you went straight, you went right to Galena, but then you had to take the road in. And that's one thing you don't do, is you don't ride on any roads, especially coming into Nome. You will get docked, might get fined, you know, and as a rookie, you know, they're usually pretty lenient about it, but, you know, coming into checkpoints is a huge deal. I mean, we've spent 5 minutes looking for the gas, you know, because you showed up at 2 in the morning, you know, and you're kind of off pace with people. So just figure out, you know, hopefully, or get some information from the veterans coming in, you know, hey, how do you come into Galena, or, you know, what's the best way to do that? Most of them are pretty marked, and they're watching you come in, so there'll be people at the pumps normally, and all that, and what else do I have? I guess we'll move into lights. Lights, Vision X makes awesome lights. We have Rigid, but we run our headlights. It all depends on how you want to do it. Sometimes the guy in the back will run his headlight all the time due to the fact you turn around, you look, okay, that's my partner behind there. We've ran into problems though. A lot of people run these Q series lights. They go back to you want to make sure it's your partner. Back in the day, we've been pretty lucky, but I've heard back in the day they've been all the way to other checkpoints and like, oh, where's your partner? Oh, he was stuck like 40 miles back, you know. Oh crap! So he didn't turn around and go back. But anytime in flat light, my recommendation is keep your headlight or your auxiliary light as high as you can. The definition is a lot better than having it say on your bumper. Some sleds are easier to wire in than most. I'm an electrician and I like just crimping things. Some people solder. On that, it's all on how you feel. Heat shrink everything, of course, and but yeah, I mean, headlights are awesome. My first year, we ran a battery setup and a fuse blew, and of course it didn't have a fuse, so we ran stock headlights from McGrath all the way to Nome and all the way back to Fairbanks. It's not that fun. It's doable. You pucker a lot more often than not, but yeah, get auxiliary lights on as soon as possible and run them. Practice with them. Get up in the morning early. You know, get out to the river because it change. You know, you could ride in the trees all day long with your stock headlights, but once you got in the river, ice bog, snowing, run these guys. They're awesome, and keep it simple. Some people get crazy, and you know, you crash once, and these things are usually gone. So keep it as simple as possible. Plug and play is awesome. That's all I really got for that.
You know, that's a good point. Practice in the morning or at night. You see a lot of teams, you go out on the river and they're riding during the day, but half the race is run in the dark.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure and test your equipment in the dark. It's going to be colder, your brain's not going to work as well, your vision's worse, and it's a lot better training than just pounding bumps all day.
Yeah. Another good thing too is most of the time, I mean, we did it our rookie year is, you know, you're always garage storing your sleds at night, so you pull them out in the morning, you load them up, you go to the big lake, you unload them. All your shocks work awesome, they're nice and warm already. So it doesn't happen in the race. I mean, McGrath 50 below, getting up, going out. First bump I hit my first year, freaking, you know, ass over tea kettle, and your sled's gonna operate different when it's cold. So I'd recommend leaving your sled out, you know, on a couple of rides outside all night, you know, and do like you were getting off the layover. You know, you start it up, let it warm up, break all the ice off the sled. and then ride it, you know, and you got to ease into it because your shocks are going to work totally different than when they're garage kept. And 9 times out of 10, that's what everyone does, and that's what we still do. But at least do a couple rides on cold shocks.
And to add just a tiny bit to that, so from a Polaris perspective, like, and others can comment, this phenomenon of the cold start and cold move is huge. Don't break your gear by over torquing right off the get-go. You know, let the engine warm up, but you can start so a full couple slow pulls, the thing's pulling over when it's 40 below, it's going to pull differently. Fire it up. Take and pull on your top loop, ski loop, to make sure the carbides aren't stuck. Take and go to the back side, slam your machine down with both of you if need be. Slam it down a few times, break off the ice, and then take the first mile going kind of slow and warm it up, because Brian's absolutely right, and you see it over and over on some of that stuff, that those are the rookie mistakes, and don't make them. It's back to listen, not just listen, but believe some of the stuff people are sharing. I used to, when I would do the talk, I'd say, you gotta listen to what everything Chris said and then listen to it again, because these little details are huge. I mean, that is an absolute rookie mistake you see, and people ball up within 100 yards. Another part is, it's Vince French, who raced from up here, he used to say, you can't win the race on the first day, but you certainly can lose it. Not only can you lose it there, but in the practice that you're going to be doing between now and race day, don't put it so far out on the line that you're going to end up in your season, because it happens over and over. I got a gentleman I rode with, he's had a couple of season-ending injuries that didn't allow us to finish it off. So take it step by step and stay in that safety zone, knowing that you're going to practice in some ways. Chris says this all the time. He will ride faster in the practices leading up to it than he actually will race day. He's going to back off a little bit than he typically does in those practice scenarios in cranking through. So don't, year after year, there are teams, and I think it was probably 5 years ago, I think there were 4 teams that didn't make it more than 2 miles off Big Lake, and the race was over for them. I think last year there were 2 teams that didn't make it more than 3 miles off Big Lake, right? So 2 teams scratching within 2 miles of Big Lake. Don't be that guy. Don't be that gal. I mean, and not saying play it safe, but just play it smart. Don't get wrapped up in the excitement of doing it and make that rookie mistake. And not necessarily that they were rookies, but yeah, you get all swept up in it and then go.
We utilize like the fueling up. It's like when you come into McGrath first night, we go right to the paddock, park our sleds, and then pull our stuff off. And the next morning, we start our sleds, and then put our little day bags back on, break the ice off, go to the pumps, and utilize that idle time at the pumps as part of your warm-up. So that way you're not just sitting there wasting time.
Break your tracks free. I know when it was 50 below, people were just sitting there smoking their belts because their track wouldn't move. And then we had to literally tip them on their side and sit there and push the track back and forth, till it finally broke. I mean, I think every team spent 10 minutes trying to get their stuff started. And then, I guess touching on that, back to money-wise, I bring anywhere from $1,000, $2,000 for myself on the trail. Nothing's paid for out in the villages. You know, I would set up, if you haven't already, and McGrath is a big one. If not, there's a bunkhouse. That's where we stayed the last 2 nights. It kind of sucks, you know, if you got people snoring next to you, but it's a place to stay. But yeah, and be respectful of the people that are, you know, you're a superstar coming into those villages, so they want you to stay in their, you know, their house, and they're all excited, and the kids want pictures and all that stuff. So, I've been on the other side of, you're tired, ready to go to bed, you don't want to deal with anyone, but you know, try to, I guess, hang out with the people around you, and they're, I guess, looking up to you. You know, all the kids want pictures, they want to touch your snow machine, you know, sit on it. And,
They all want autographs.
yeah, they want autographs. And,
Sign their book. Sign their piece of paper.
Even what Brian was saying about going into villages and people helping you, is help them back. You know, that $2 bologna sandwich is a $10 sandwich there. You know, so if they put you up and feed you, triple a extra, you never go a long way. There's a lot of people just like that. You know, in this day and age with this Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff, well, if you guys act up, we'll see it. It'll happen. We will see it. You know, and you are representing our dog out there. Yeah, you're ambassadors to the sport, and we don't want to get a bad report of anybody. So just be really respectful.
Normally they won't take your money either. Usually you gotta hide it.
Or leave it on the table.
Yeah, put it under your plate or something, because they won't let you clear your own plate, something like that.
And don't be insulted if they want to sell you an A-arm for $300.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
Because that's how much it costs to get that up there. You know? That's the sad reality. But that's what they give them for money.
Chris has told us before, he ran out of gas a little shy of $10, and some guy was freighting out some fuel because before last year there was no checkpoint or no express checkpoint, so we all had to fly in fuel there. And he ran out of fuel, and the guy was freighting by with fuel for another team. And he's like, "Hey man, can I get a gallon off you?" "Oh no, this is $100 a gallon." "Nope." $200 a gallon. "Nope." $300 a gallon. I mean, when you're out there, and you'll know. And the guy never gave it. He went up to like $400 a gallon, and he wouldn't give him any fuel.
It was like an 8-mile walk.
Yeah, no, I mean, we ran out of gas right before Tanana this year, and it's not fun. But to have that little extra cash, I mean,
Yeah, the ski at Rainy Pass was $300, but you're vested. You're trying to run the race. You already got 2 machines and everything else into this. A clutch for me was $500. The clutch tool was $300. So it adds up. If you're figuring you got weeks and weeks invested, and you're going to do what you need to do. So just be ready. And back to that whole part that Chris would say over and over, and Matthew Spurnack as well. Things are going to go wrong. You will maybe once every 5 years, when the guys that do it all the time will say they have a good year and nothing happens, but there's stuff that's going to be wrong. It is how you handle yourself, how you deal with it. Don't take the hood off and go flinging it across and smack a volunteer with a hood or something else like that. And that stuff happens, and it's going to show up on video, So just treat the volunteers with respect. And from standing on this side of the fence as well, as a person who is supporting it, my biggest upset is I didn't start racing earlier, and I got into this because my daughter. But it is just a phenomenal experience, and we were on the edge of not having a race this year. So let's not bring the people down. Let's talk the people up. Let's make it a good experience. There's a lot of good sponsors out there. Let's talk. Tell them what's so great about yours and why someone should buy that. Don't say the other stuff's bad. Let's do the right thing. Let's be the ambassadors to the sport and make it so it continues. Because again, they're pulling this out of near extinction to get this to happen, so we have a race. And so thank you guys. Appreciate it.
other than that, I think that's kind of it. I mean, yeah. Going back to, and some of you guys, I know most top elite teams or whatever have an airplane. It's something that is beneficial to a certain extent. The weather happens, you can't even fly in. I mean, you can Gold Streak to most villages, and you can get parks there. So if you're getting off a layover, you got 8 hours. A lot of flights have 2 flights a day into these villages. You can go that route, or you can ship parts. We've done this before. Galena's a big one. McGrath's a big one. Your first days are your 2 hardest days. So you're sending parts, there. You're sending A-arms or whatever, front end parts to McGrath, say, because that's what you break during that time period. And, anything that can help you that way, do it. Most teams are pretty cool about if they have a plane, they have a part, you need it, they'll hook you up. You just got to get them back. Some teams are not so, that's their stuff. Don't mess with it. So get in with a couple teams is my advice. Hey, we'll throw this in. We'll throw a track in our plane. You throw a couple extra, front end parts over here. But you don't need a plane. Everyone thinks nowadays because everyone's doing it, you need a plane. You don't need a plane. I think planes should just be there for safety. I think it'd be cool to get planes away from it. It'll be later on date.
Keep your stuff simple. Don't get custom one-off parts that you're not going to be able to replace.
Another thing on that boarding, he said sleeping in a bunkhouse really sucks, but I kind of think that's a rookie mistake because I did it when I was a rookie too. I slept in the bunkhouse. But now, you don't really have to. They have private rooms, but all the veterans get them nowadays because they're making reservations today.
Yeah.
Like say in McGrath and everywhere else that has a lodge or a place to stay, call them. Call them after the meeting. Say, hey, this is Adam Drink House. I need 2 beds for this day of the Iron Dog. They'll be like, all right, give your credit card. We're going to charge you. And if you show up, we're still going to use your private room.
Good luck with McGrath. They probably already are. They're probably already
I had a
taken.
kid one time about this big come in McGrath with a pickup truck with no doors on it, driving with full of snow, and he's like, hey, Aunt, you need a place to stay? And I was like, yep. So now that kid's racing, and he's here. You know, he's a rookie now, and I'm happy to do that, you know.
That's another thing. If you, pre-planning is awesome, but you never know, depending on where you're at. Sometimes, you're going to stay in Galena going northbound. Sometimes you're going to push the Caltag. You will get housed. If you're worried about it, they will make something. I mean, we came in Unaclete at 3 in the morning. We had no place to stay because the trail class team all bunked over in Unaclete. We had a long layover. They took the spots that we had that we were going to use. And yeah, this guy woke up at 3 in the morning, came got us in his little RV or whatever, or his UTV, and he was happier in the clan. Made us food at 4 in the morning, and just people like that. You don't have to have a plan. I would recommend it, but if you want to push forward, if you're up front and you're like, okay, all the front runners are going, we should probably go, and there'll be places for you to stay. There always is, and they're more than happy to house you and feed you.
I think Galena and Unaclete are good examples of that. So you get there and everyone's there. Everyone's going to have the same stuff. So put your name on your boots, if you're getting bunny boots or other. Put your team number, have some initials, your jacket. Because all the coats look the same, all the tech vests. So have some ways to identify yours, that's you. Because there'll be 20 jackets, 20 bibs, 20 sets of boots all lined up. And you don't want that hassle, and there could be critical stuff to your mission that's in your jacket that you don't have. We were talking about this earlier, that for me, with the stuff, and Brian's a little bit different on that about the bag snapping off. My bag doesn't come off and on the flares, so I just use the event bag. This one clasps down, but the bags that you get are not waterproof. You gotta, if you have spare clothes, they're still going to do a job keeping you warm when they're wet. But you don't want to go through that. You want to have dry clothes and vests. So keep your stuff wrapped up so it's not going to be wet. Goggles, same thing. Have your spare set, and I carry typically 2 sets of goggles, a spare in addition to one on my head. You'll talk, and we won't go into it now, but there's what we call river goggles that are typically have most of the vents taped off, and figuring out what colors you're going to use. It's back to that the river goggle in relation. When you're truly going at those speeds for that length of time, just that amount of air movement across makes your eyes water and change it. And not everyone needs it. It depends on which goggle and what you're running and how susceptible you are to tearing up when you have that much wind popping in your face.
That goes for the sleep bag too. They will become big ice blocks if you let them get wet. So
More weight and yeah.
And not helpful when you really need it.
exactly.
I guess adding on that, I use a full face helmet. I do that. I like my jaw. So, and I've hit into my face on the bars, stuff like that. But yeah, you'll have, and different partners are different. Like I don't sweat. My partner sweats like a dog. So he'll have less taped up, or I'll be more taped up. But yeah, figure it all out. Definitely practicing. I carry, like Larry said, I carry a rose pair of goggles. I carry a yellow pair, and I carry clear. So I think it's 2. You gotta have 1 spare set of goggles. I think is rules, but yeah.
Carry as much as you want.
Yeah. Exactly. Carry as much, and you don't want to be that guy just carrying a lens. You ain't gonna be popping that in and out real quick.
Can you talk about what, if anything, you do to defrost your goggles? I mean, you're in a full face, so you don't have a mask, so it's probably a little easier. And some of the sleds have compartments for them, some of them don't. Sometimes people make little custom bags under the hood or something like that.
And I'll weigh in after you, Brian.
Yeah, so I mean, we have a bag. I don't think it's on this sled, but we have a side panel bag. Usually we put like a pair of gloves and a set of goggles in, so that stays pretty warm. Most of your dash bags nowadays are heated. I know ours can get some snow dust in, so I tape it all off and try to keep the snow out as much as possible. But if you start fogging up, stop, because most times I'll just stop, rip off my goggles, put them under the exhaust, and throw them back on. It hurts my eyes for about 3 miles or whatever because you got fumes and stuff. But if you sit there and try to peek out that one little clear spot, you're gonna hit a tree. You're gonna do something stupid. And,
Yeah, if you're fogging 3 sets of goggles in 20 minutes, you have another problem.
yeah, unzip.
You need
your
to
sweat.
regulate your body temperature a little better. Once you start sweating, your tape peels off your face, and your goggles don't seal to your nose anymore. And like you go through 3 sets in 20 minutes, and then you're screwed.
So I am the de facto expert on that, having done everything wrong. and more layers isn't always better, but I can tell you some of the rookie stuff is an example like this, and you'll see people doing it. If you're in the deep, if you're out riding, doing powder riding or something in the woods, you'll see that all the time. If you're riding Iron Dog and you then put your goggles up here with your mask hanging over, and every time you take a breath you see that steam raising up, you're screwing up. If you take your goggles and you set your goggles like this, and there's snow dust or other stuff flying around, it's absolutely going down. If it's snowing outside, so sometimes we'll do over the windshield, sometimes protecting it, but absolutely protecting the inside of that lens so it's not fogging up. The little deflector shields we make out of the duct tape, or people have the no fogs or whatever to protect the goggles so that you're not fogging up from the get-go. Same thing exactly with the sweating. If you're sweating and you know you're going to sweat on that big white trail, opening up all the vents, making sure you have less of that impact, because you cannot ride to your ability with your goggles fogged up. And again, we had a case where it was becoming absolute critical to our health and well-being outside of McGrath, fogging up, and we could not go down the trail more than 50 feet, 50 yards, and we were screwing up and doing absolutely everything wrong. Stopping, heating the goggles over the exhaust, just melting the snow. The other, got to say, you got to be careful too. If you've got the Oakley goggles that are treated, you need to use their wiper to do it so you don't mess them up. I think it's Smith sells the little square tabs that work pretty good for it, but it's prevention, making sure that you're not fogging them up from the get-go. Another rookie mistake is, and it's happened multiple times on the Yetna, once in a race that I know of, but certainly in practice, you're going along and you think you fogged up your goggles, and it's from the outside. Just scrape them off, and then you go, oh, I can see again. But you're down to 5 miles an hour thinking that you're fogged up, and you're going to fix it when you get to Roadhouse or something else. So just check and think the stuff through.
I'll do a lot of, I won't breathe when I pull in stop points. I'll hold my breath as much as I can, just to not that fog. Or I'll sit there, a lot of people you see just sitting there shaking their head. It's not they're saying no, they're just trying to keep that airflow through the goggle, trying to keep it thawed out. But most of the times, you come to a checkpoint, pros and cons, full face. I don't drink water during the race, during checkpoints, due to the fact I'm too lazy to pull out a straw and stick it in my mouth and then deal with the straw later. I don't eat either unless I have to. If you can live with an open face, I hear they're warmer. They're obviously easier to drink out of. They're easier to eat out of. Yeah, personal preference.
I think that's a good point, though. They're certainly warmer, that style helmet, as far as that part of the inconvenience. From a cooling perspective, though, and saying no goggle fog, virtually all the other style full face have more options for ventilation than what you've got with the open face. It's just figuring out preference and then really having it dialed in as to what works for you.
That's all I got.
Is there any questions? We keep forgetting to ask the first question.
I got a text, and the rookie, and there's some of the people watching this workshop, they want to know how do they prove to you guys that they were watching the rookie workshop.
Oh.
So does someone want to announce that?
We got our eyes on you.
I guess I'll add on too, there's been problems in recent years that villagers touch in sleds. As much as you can, try not to get them. They're going to want to help you. I'll give you that right away. They want to fill your sled up with fuel. They want to do this, do that. They want to be a part of you coming through their village. But all you can do is say, could you please not? Or, don't be rude. Don't yell at them. They're volunteers. if there's problems with it, talk to the officials. I mean, I know we've had problems before. Hey, what happened with this? Doing this? It's like, you know, and they'll work it out. Hopefully, it's in the good, not the wrong. But all they want to do is help. So don't be mad or that they're trying to fill you up. Just kind of, hey man, I got it, thanks, and go from there.
A couple of things on the machine. Your auxiliary gas cans. You know, if you were to roll or something, that gas cap could come off. We attached the cap to the can with aircraft cable, and then our oil caps and our gas caps, we had a Velcro piece on the dash. So you take the cap off, Velcro it down so it doesn't fall on the ground, get full of snow or something. You know, just little things to make the checkpoints nice. But we had one guy tip, and his cap came off. We got him rolled up, but the cap came off, and he was losing gas out of his auxiliary can. And you know, it was good to have that cap held on aircraft.
Yeah, and they just make sure you are in the cold weather. I know, like our caps, we never really tested them last year. We got them late and everything. And shoot, the first time I went to open it up and crack the seal on it, it was tighter. I had to get out almost a pair of chainies and take it off. I mean, so everything expands and gets smaller. So the best thing you can do with your sleds is set it up identical to how you're going to race it, and then there's no issues when you do run into things in the race.
And to throw that out there too, you're never going to have the perfect shock suspension for everything. You're going to get it great for one spot, not so good for another when it's time for the race. So just know that. Don't mess with it so much. And going back a few years, as we were testing the setup, my partner at the time fractured his wrist with over the handlebars, just going down a part of the stretch, testing out the shocks. I mean, and it's over and over. If they're not right, they're not right, so you're going to have to go back and dial it in, but figure out what's going to work for you. And don't spend all your time doing it. And the guys are the expert, and that's ones that I'm not going to share totally, but you can get in the ballpark without changing out every single part of it and redoing full suspension. I mean, they come set up pretty nice from the get-go, all things considered. But if you're going to spend money to enhance your machine, it's always shocks and suspension and lights. That's what you're going to spend your money on.
And then Larry's setup ain't going to work for me, and mine's not going to work for Larry. It's all personal preference.
Yes.
Don't let somebody talk you into something. I mean, last year I was fighting it the day before the race and pulled shocks out, and you know, got it all figured out, but it was, you know, the wrong shock for, you know, somebody else's valving. So just stuff like that. Don't let anyone talk you into it, I guess. And then don't set your stuff up for Big Lake Trail. That's the worst mistake you can do.
Rookie mistake.
Yeah. There's whatever 20 miles of Big Lake Trail, a whole lot of river.
Yeah, and the shock experts will tell you too, if you talk to Spernak or Risner or Frankie or any of these other people that are actually doing it as well, if it changed between a Friday and a Monday and the weather temperature was different, they look like the same, but the snow's a little bit harder, the outside temperature's a little bit different, you rode 10% faster on that first little stretch, it changes everything. The heat of the shocks, the snow conditions, how you're loading when you're doing the brakes, so it's going to be drastically different. And absolutely be careful when you're doing those runs, trying to figure out, because I've seen multiple wipeouts under these shock testing kind of scenarios.
And ice buildup too. After that first day, you could add another 10 pounds of this ice. You know, if you go through overflowing rivers, you're gonna add ice. You're gonna add more weight. So
That goes back to leave your sled out overnight, go ride it, get it slushed up and park it.
the practice with your
And
kids
then,
full and
yeah, and then check all your gear the next morning.
Yeah.
And
The worst runner you're gonna hate is Wilfred O'Poorman. And you're gonna have you're gonna be 100% filled up on everything, and yeah, don't abuse your machine, I guess. Make it easy. You know, your sled's gotta last 2,000 miles. It's not worth blowing out a shock or what have you. But yeah, you're gonna be like, why did I? What's wrong with my sled? It happens every year. I do the same thing. Man, my stuff's soft. Well, you got 15 gallons and it's rougher than Big Lake Trail.
So Bobby Meany coming down the stairs after that portion, and he's skinny as skinny can be. And he goes, "You guys got names for everything. There's the burn trail. There's this trail. There's that. The worst part ever, over to Poor Man. Oh, there's no name for that. What's that called? Because that's miserable. There's no trail worse in the world than that trail over to Poor Man. There's got to be a name for it." Nope, no name. Over to Poor Man. It is pretty brutal.
3 to 4 hours of misery. Once you see that river, you're happy.
Going from McGrath to Ophir, it was like a dream.
Yeah.
And then I asked the guy we're fueling up, and I said, "Jesus, is this nice to Poor Man?" He goes, "Oh yeah."
And you know, water crossing and water skipping, I refuse to skip over water on the lakes and other stuff, minus race day. I'm not going to be doing the ocean water skipping. You'll hear stories that just, I mean, to this day, still scare me to death hearing about what some decisions were made to do the race. But you're going to end up skipping water on the creeks and other stuff. Think it through. Take that half a second to figure it out before you go racing across. And again, rookie mistake that on a training run, Dave Houseback and I made, and we joke about all the time. Because we're going in that direction doesn't mean we're going to be able to come in this direction. We went off a bank, crossed the water, but then getting back, you're looking at a bank that you can't get up. You got to be able to go in both directions. And it's getting off the water that's the problem. The ledge, something on the other side. Don't just assume you're going to skip. And I can tell you too that we were towards the back of the pack one of the years, and all the ice bridges had collapsed. So we were coming up with new ways to get across that weren't there, that slowed us down dramatically. But you got to think it through. I mean, because you're going to be in the middle of nowhere, and whether the people are not going to be able to get to you for a couple of days potentially. You don't want to be soaking wet dealing with that, and you got to think it through.
And last year they were pretty good. Like there's a lot of open water coming back. The officials have been making it a lot better. I mean, we were the same way. We're not going out in the ocean. We're not going out in the ocean. It's stupid. You know. And then of course you go out in the ocean. But you know, it's just, you know, the name of the game. But if it's so bad that, you know, there shouldn't be. Nowadays, the safety is such a factor. I mean, they were really good last year. You know, we went all the way around Golden Bay. We didn't even mess with it. And that's awesome, and everyone gets a fair advantage because you got these veterans that have, you know, 17 tracks on different ways to get around things, and you got, you know, I ran it for 2 years and still have one track. You know, so they'll make those decisions. Don't freak out about it too much. And then, yeah, that's.
So last year they really were good. We did go across the ice, and it was staked all the way.
That's another thing.
And that's where it's nice because it's reassuring that
You're in
the right area. Because you're out on the sea ice, you're not going to have a track. Most people aren't. Where we went last year, we were pretty far out. The next day, all the ice is gone. It was all water. So it's pretty nice and reassuring. You know, we're going the right way, and then we hit land, and then we're like, okay, now where? And then you just start kind of making the way, and it's pretty well marked the whole way in and out of checkpoints within 20 miles. You're not really going to second guess yourself too much.
Another thing is don't take out any stakes if you can. Stakes are there for a reason. You know, you'll hit. I've been there. You'll hit 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, getting a lot of whack, but try not to hit the stakes because it becomes a safety factor at that point. I mean, we came to spots where, you know, nothing. You know, fresh snow, it's snowing, can't see nothing, no stakes. And, you know, it's like, oh, yeah, they marked it. The villagers said they marked all the way to freaking 100 miles. Well, there's about 20 miles of it, and then you couldn't see nothing, you know. So try to be respectful for the people that are, you know, we're all racing, we're all trying to win, but yeah, don't put somebody else's in danger, I guess. To say the least.
Listen to the checkers. Listen to the locals and know. I mean, you can have a sticker, which is great, so you know the order of the checkpoints. But you got to commit that to memory, the order of the checkpoints, because we've been given information before in Shack 2, like they said, oh, the ice is out in Gulf. Well, we didn't know that we were just going to Koya, and we didn't know the order of the checkpoints, so we spent 3 hours trying to avoid water that wasn't there. And teams did that run in 42 minutes of the bar for half an hour at a time. And when we see him, we're like, oh, not knowing that Gullivan was farther down the trail. So know the order of the checkpoints and just listen to the locals. They'll give you advice. And if you're unsure, just ask them. Where's the next one? How far away is that? So that way you know. Because there will be, hopefully not, but there does come a time sometimes in the middle of the night when you see just a big black and a bunch of steam. That's not no bueno. So figure out what you're going to do, and usually it's grab a handful and keep going. Unless you have plans
That's
to
all you
stop.
can do.
That's all you can do. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. They always have information for you when they're at the checkpoint. If, 95% of the time it's good. Sometimes it's not.
If you can't find your way out of the village, just ask them. They'll let you know.
Oh, they'll
Go to
jump
school,
on their
right?
snow machine with their beaver hat and take you right out. I mean, sure they'll.
If they say they won't go, then you shouldn't go. That's the bottom line. I wouldn't take that trail. I wouldn't.
Yeah. That's what we ran to the ocean last year. We're like, well, we don't want to take the ocean. We're like, well, that's the only trail in. Okay. Don't go, snow 2.5 feet up and over the marked trail. The ocean wasn't marked. So it's like, all right, well. And 9 times out of 10, there's only one trail out in the middle of nowhere. So I shouldn't say it's hard to get lost. It's doable, but yeah. Just know your GPS. And a lot of times, if it lies in some spots over to poor man, it will lie a couple times and they'll come right back to each other. But we've been the person to go up here, turn around, go back, go over here, turn around, come back, and then, oh, we went another 5 minutes and they both came together and, it all went back to the same. And if you see tracks going off one way, it might be faster, but if you don't know, don't take it. So there's veterans with different tracks out there, and different lines that are faster sometimes. But if you don't know it, I wouldn't recommend taking it.
If you get a chance to ride on your own track outside of Rainy Pass before you get to Hell's Gate, there's a couple of twists there that you'll dead in on the wrong spot, and whether it be recreational riders or other people riding at a different spot, and that one can put. Just have to wait it.
I guess there's not always stakes too. There's sometimes pyramids or whatever they call them, tripods. So you see those, you're in the right direction.
Sometimes the trail will be marked on the road. Coming into last year, everybody took the road because that's the way it was marked. But coming into Galena, we didn't know any better. We followed the stakes, took us right down the side of the road. As long as you're respectful and you're not doing 80 down the side of the road, and if you're a rookie, it's pretty understandable about it. But it's just one more thing to think about.
I guess like coming into McGrath too, take it easy. You're in race mode, you want to do 80 as much as you can or whatever, but you cruise down the road there, which is perfectly fine, but keep it reasonable. There's people running around, dogs, four-wheelers, everything. It's the last thing you want to do is take out a villager or something like that, just to save 30 seconds trying to get to the paddock.
Any more questions around it?
Yeah.
If you guys think of questions, the folks watching this on live stream, think up some questions. We're going to turn the audio down a little bit so you don't hear our lips smacking. Grab some Subway sandwiches and some pizza. But we'll be back shortly with Brian Webb, who's one of the marshals. He's going to go over the rules with Sure. And he's a board member. We'll be back shortly.
That guy over there.
Attila, rock, we were gonna try and go rock all the way to but we stopped. Because it was like, we had this powder snow that is suckiest. It just sucked up.
Actually, that's the hardest part about it.
I had 2 bites and I'm about full.
I mean, there's
That's how crazy this slide is. Like,
Why didn't you try it?
no, I had 2 bites and I'm pretty much full. But if I cover this up with foil like at home, this sandwich will last till midnight. I know that's pretty cool, huh? All pick and stuff.
By the river, we got some water, but
Yeah.
the creek crosses.
I want a candy bar so bad.
After we got onto the end.
One of those little ones. If I wasn't on this thing, I would have ate that
There was a
little
whole
chunk.
few.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? So they were out, but they got waylaid on the Big Lake Trail.
Oh, yeah.
But I kept telling James,
I had a
It's nice when you get it going, man.
yeah, give me an offer.
Yeah.
It's when
We went,
you get this
me and Rob,
when
we,
you
like, I got some
eat
pictures of
something
Rob waded across
with sugar
the
or
creek
with
that we
sugar
crossed.
in it.
Rob waded across and he
It
did.
goes to your goose,
The reason we did it is
gets your body shock
Every time we pretty much say
because it goes as this.
I just noticed
You know what I mean?
my associate and then I
And
went
then
over and shoved snow and sticks down and he jumped across. And then we did my snow machine up, but
It gives you feel like some
there's no shit.
yeah, and you're just
There was no,
you have to
there was
lay
no
down.
risk at that point. We were.
But that's a good one if you guys go. Either you go through one
There was
house,
once we got on the river, it was just.
It's all coming back to me now.
We skipped one spot just because we came up on it too fast.
The question was, okay, rookies are watching it on the internet.
Oh yeah.
You can't, but it's to their benefit.
It is.
Started.
And if they don't,
I told him, I said, Dave, you already got it, bro.
But
Why do you need to play guitar for?
once you get to Crater Lake, it's kind of you know, all the land.
but there's only like 1 or 2 teams. Right?
That's what we did.
Team 42, Team 44, are they pretty close?
But they're on the long track.
And 44 is there. And the other 44 is much bigger than that.
Don't stay in the field. Just flop against the white.
We've been
I was known for one.
when you get down.
His brother comes up to
You're gonna be
grab
at
him
John
and
John
he
shop?
pulls him down. And now they're both bowling around.
Maybe, I'm not sure yet.
We
In this
looked at
case,
him,
we
had
set
a
up
driver
our
with brakes, backed up that way.
and then
We sneaked out and sweated, and they are frozen. They just
And shit.
Breaking names.
I already got it right.
That's why you have your hands on your last year.
And that's still the
You need to get back?
Yeah.
Especially with people you swap out faster.
take a little time. So I said, go around Big Lake once.
You're not trying to deny it.
Do something else.
No, well, we're not trying to be
I've never
left.
No, that'll be fun. That's the,
Hi.
How's their timing? Good. Taking a lunch break.
Can come here.
Different gear too. How much religion
I'm
does
gonna
it
go the other direction so I can't answer.
I haven't touched one hammer yet. My guys are working up there. Doing foundation and painting doors and White Mountain.
After we got turned around, I had a
Crazy where you can do something behind the
Do you need a table built up on Brian? You can put it on the stairs.
and Rob was going through my cuddle bag when I was
it's that not, no, I'm good brand anyways.
I didn't know it was in there. My partner.
Okay.
It's a good idea to know what's in there.
When you get to, guys are gonna bring
you were here?
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. I couldn't find it. You tell me you need me there.
Hopefully it gets a good video. This time, we've done it. Fold everywhere.
Like on the egg.
Not very well. This one comes down to the original one. No, he stayed like a day. Which I started sending them videos. Once a month. He's a
Try to stay away from little kid about his age show. What you're doing. No, neither. That pickup still running? The floor was right there under your clutch. You should have put a piece of line in it. Smells coming in. Turn it Man, I was freaking hungry. Probably got freezer your age. That my friend was got me too.
What were you saying?
Last time you saw me.
Yeah, calibration wise, that's why. Yeah, we live really close to each other. So I went to steal his. Correct. Well, it should be patched right now, but only thing maybe there's on the primary spring they didn't CC it past. But the used stock one, possible.
It better be anything better than that.
It's pulling well.
You can start right. Start right.
That would be my only thing with like the secondary. Being a little more not shifting out all the way.
So we're gonna do in about 2 minutes. We're gonna get back on the audio, and it'll be the marshals talking, and it'll be the rules committee talking, and then after that we'll follow up with Jake on the timing, and then we'll end with tech check with Dave.
We were getting more stuff when we first took around boxes. That's what they said. Yeah, RPM box. Start turning Yukon that worked out so make your time up. And you're getting on a sled that weighs 96. Yeah, there were some points it'd be like, oh, yeah, right? 50. Like on the Yukon, you're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
That's why that one.
So are you taking,
That had CC
pull the rental card in?
running. These injectors, they like pull themselves away. But he said that every injector.
It's a quick ride. It's only like
It doesn't get past the screen, you know.
Yeah.
The screen has little clicks. Away or yeah, the only thing I did on that one was the tank. Yeah, exactly. Did you change that? No.
Here,
Because yeah, Corey was saying that the package problems with the way the package
Little face thing.
Yeah. an hour. Remember just raise the go. You can go, what is it called? Right. Rosemount. Yeah. Well, from the north, so if you start on,
Jason was down on it last year. He was able to stand on the camel and walk around
up
it.
to the lake, and that's miles, but then
Every so often.
I understand it's south of we're going to want to do Ridge Rose and Rosemount, or go up yeah, you want to go farther south. So take that.
I'm thinking this is better than my race.
Not necessarily. So you're gonna run
Get their attention.
interstate south of Reno.
So you guys ready to get back to it?
It stops.
Yeah, it
And
goes
then
right
you-
into Grangeville.
Yeah.
Into Grangeville.
Yeah.
There you go. We got everybody back.
But it just miraculously stops. Oh yeah.
But it was before she did me.
Are we on? Okay. Couple of things. I'm Bill Fisher, lead dog helmet light. Want to let you guys know, if you haven't used our lights before, we offer a racer discount. So just get with us. I've got some cards here, and or you can call us at 277-4433 to get your racer discount price. Don't do it online on our website. Helmetlight.com is our website, but to get the discount you need to call us, or I have stuff here today. And if you do get our lights, I highly recommend it. Use them on a practice run. Like Larry said, practice running at night. The snow dust thing, having that light up on your head makes a huge difference. Plus it's wired into your brake light. It can, just that millisecond more when you see that brake light in front of you come on, that you might not have seen in the snow dust, can save a horrible wreck, and it has. But, please get out, try them, practice with them, and then if you don't plan on running it on the race, at least have it there as a backup. We've had racers in Iron Dog and Baja come in with just their helmet light operating, where their other parts of their electrical system have gotten, busted up, and it makes a world of difference. Plus, trying to find trail markers when your headlights are pointing straight ahead, the trail markers could be, half a mile this way. Well, our helmet light will light up the reflectors on those things. So, plus it can help you having that light that much higher, to show you moguls, even during like flat light days, where Brian was talking about run with your lights on, on gray days and stuff. Sometimes a helmet light during the day will make a difference enough to just throw a throw a shadow there that'll show a mogul that you might not have seen or something, so. Just get with me, and or call our number, and we'll do everything we can to help you, and definitely give you a good discount for the race. Plus the face tape, I've been kind of supplying face tape to everybody, the 3M microfoam. I've been carrying that, but I found it on Amazon for $23 for a box of 6. Here this year, and the price goes up and down, but it's worth it, and not just for your face. You can use it for all kinds of other things. If you're starting to get some tendonitis and stuff, you can wrap your arm with it to try and
try and help that. Other injuries, you know, or just warming in places that, you know, that you just don't have a good seal on at a certain point. So there's a lot of stuff you can do with it, but just definitely get some on Amazon or get some from me here today, and go for it. Any questions or? Okay, then I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well,
Who's
I'll jump in there.
you in there?
Yep. Back, my name's Ansh, you guys. I stayed because there was food coming. So, we're gonna go over some rules and stuff, a little bit of rules. Our race marshal's here. He'll introduce himself.
My name's Brian Webb. This is my 8th year with the Iron Dog. Volunteered 1 year, ran the race 4 years, and this will be my 3rd year as the race marshal. So, like John was saying, once the race starts, it's going to be myself, Dave, and Derek Martin from Nome that's totally in charge of the race. You can't go to anybody else for any information other than us. And it's kind of a majority rules situation with the 3 of us. So if you have an issue, you bring it to me, I'll bring it to them. We discuss it, we come to an agreement. If it's so extreme that we can't come to a resolution, then we'll get the rules committee involved, and then we'll all sit down and try to come to a fair resolution for it. Just a couple things like Ansh was saying about the villages. If they help you out and you don't have the means to reward them at that point, and you say, hey man, I'll take care of you when I get back home, do it. Because then if you don't, you'll get that reputation, and the next time you race, they might not be so willing to help. And I don't know about, there's not a whole lot of changes in this year's rules. You guys all got your racers packets yet, Sarah?
Everybody get a copy of the rules?
They're online.
They're online, you
Okay.
can read them on.
They're
Everybody,
online, and you all told me that you had read them. You completed them when
And
you
you will-
made your entries.
You will sign paper saying that you read and understand them.
did everybody read them?
You don't understand?
Or take a look at them?
And if you have any questions,
Adam.
you can get a hold of me. I can give you my number, email, Dave's name, address, phone, everything. Everything you need to do to get a hold of us so we can help you succeed in this race. And we don't want to have to levy fines. We will. Or add time to anybody. We will. You know, a couple of no-nos, the roads. There's some roads that you're okay to run on. Not the road in Nome. That is a huge no-no. You run on the road in Nome, we'll get you. We'll 15, 30, 45 an hour, we'll add to you. You know, and that's just for everybody's safety.
Right. And if the police are there, they will write you a ticket.
Yeah, and they'll get you. And then on top of what we like, you know, it's just a lot of it's just rookie mistakes or just lack of judgments. For the trail class, I don't know how many trail class guys we have. Enjoy the ride. You know, don't go out there and try to race the trail class. You have certain expectations and checkpoints that you have to meet. You need to be in there. You can't leave any later than 8. So just enjoy the ride. A lot of these pro guys don't even know about the trap line from Caltag to the coast. They've never seen it because that's just little things that you'll pick up on as you're riding. Kind of stop at old lady's cabin, take pictures, you know, do your thing and have a good time. These guys are so focused on the end result. When you guys have a pretty good opportunity to see the country and appreciate it, and get to talk to people and kind of spread the word of the race, it's a pretty unique opportunity, really. You get to set your own pace, as opposed to trying to place, I guess, would be a good word.
I don't think there's a placing button part for
No.
trail class. You guys go out there and enjoy it, have fun. And that cabin, it's called Old Woman.
Old Woman.
Outside Unity. It's not haunted.
But there's just
For
kind of
years,
cool
people
stuff.
told me it was haunted. I had to stop for years.
And eat the stew and poor man. The guys for SBS put together this little shack in the middle of nowhere on the top of an airstrip, and they'll have, I don't know if it's because it's so cold and you're just so hungry that it's the best stew I've ever had,
but it's take your time, enjoy a bowl or two, and yeah, blue, that's right. And it's not a lot of the pro guys can say they've had it. It's a pretty cool thing.
The power race pretty good.
Whole jug of it. Yeah. But as far as the rules, everything that was changed this year was highlighted in yellow. We didn't really deviate any too far from the past with the rules. A constant thorn that we've had in the last couple of years, and Dave can attest to this, is the helmets, the boots, and how much orange you're supposed to have on your helmet. What kind of boots you can run. You know, it's funny boots are suggested. That's a lot of guys will run those just for the simple fact, like Ryan said, if you get wet, they stay warm. A lot of guys run the motocross or motor fist and the climb. It's more like a hunt boot to me, but it's got a lot of ankle support. It's just totally up to you guys. If you show up with some ratty boots, busted shoelaces, the tongue's hanging out and stuff, yeah, that's not gonna fly. You know, they have to be sound. I'm not saying brand new, but they have to be in pretty good shape. The helmets, that's tough because it says 75% of the helmet has to be orange. So you look at Larry's helmet and the whole thing's orange. That's the best thing to do. That's the best because we don't have a device to measure a helmet if it's 75%. It'll be us talking. This helmet doesn't look like it's going to match or make the 75%, and you might have spent $1,000 on this helmet paint job. Well, now you're putting strips of orange duct tape over your thing just to try to make it work. So it's better.
Yeah. Good thing about Mr. Levine's orange helmet, that identifies you as Iron Doggers coming. When people were looking from the checkpoints and they could see miles, say Koyak or Zeptulip coming off there's Iron Doggers coming because they see these bright day glow orange helmets. So that's how they identify you.
Be careful with that too, because you'll notice the orange helmet and forget your name and a 2-foot stripe of your name across the back of it, and you go right with your partner Dave Houseback in Michigan, and he runs a lady off of a bridge. It comes back and haunts you.
And that goes back to that whole trail etiquette thing. You know, you're gonna maybe see one person on the trail, but make sure that you give them that right away, because you are, you know, in their neck of the woods, just a neck of the woods.
You slow down. I mean, every year you get the finger or something like that from it. You know, and you're like, you know, it's on a different trail, you know, respecting. I think they just want to see you slow down a little bit instead of doing 100, you know, even if you're 50 feet away from them or 100 feet or on the other side of the river.
Yeah, oh yeah, and if you run across dogs,
Yeah.
get as far off the trail, get as far away from the dogs as you can. You know, that's one of the, especially on the Yentna, you're bound and determined to see dogs, and they'll just throw a fit. If you haul ass by somebody mushing their dogs and you're ripping 100 miles an hour, we're gonna hear about it.
Not only hear about it, the whole state's going to hear about it on the news.
Mhm.
Iron Doggers, injured dog. Yeah, it's a big no-no. Yeah, that's practicing also.
And there's, and you guys know too, in that whole area, Willow, outside Big Lake, a lot of the dog teams train, and I think after you've been spooked once, because you almost ran into them, you kind of figured out, but it is the most, I don't know if you guys have seen it yet, but at night, they'll have, some of them don't wear much of anything, but usually it's just one small headlamp. Some of them have the reflective harnesses, but most not. And that one headlamp is kind of an optical illusion. You think it's a cabin 5 or 6 miles on the other side, and you're just picking it up. And then all of a sudden you're 30, 40 yards from running into the dog team. So get used to it, that cabin light you thought you saw could be that dog team.
And they don't stop.
They're not getting off the trail.
No, they don't get off the trail for you. They won't stop or slow down. They're just going to stay one pace and keep going.
Big Lake Trail's super dangerous. I mean, you know, the bikers, you go down it, skiers, four-wheelers, you know, they're always, you know, going opposite way of what you're going usually. It's always worst case scenario. And there's some blind spots on Big Lake Trail, so just there's no point in you do 100 down Big Lake Trail. And they already don't.
Yeah, you wouldn't make it to the river.
They're not carrying, they don't care for something.
No, we get, every year we get, whatever, was 100 miles an hour down the trail. They wouldn't move. They almost hit my kid. You know, we hear about it every year. You know, some of it's probably embellished, but then at the same time, we really need to mind our P's and Q's when you guys are out there training, just so we don't have to listen to this stuff. when you guys are out on the race, we try to keep you guys as updated as we get it. We'll try to get conditions on the coast, conditions on the rivers. We try to get those and pass those on to you guys as quickly as we can. But nobody's going to know more than probably the checkers. Those guys are invaluable. You know, they'll know the conditions. They'll know where the trail is. They'll know how good the trail is. And feel free to pick their minds and try to put together what we tell you and they tell you. That way you can be as informed as you can. And then when we do the halfway banquet in Nome, that's mandatory for all the guys. You have to show up if you make it that far. When you make it that far, we'll throw that out there. Yeah, and then we'll update you with the conditions heading back. You know, you can pick Ryan's mind. Hey, you know, I've heard like when you go down the Yukon to Caltech, we've had to overland it a couple times, or we can run you down through there. If you're not sure where that overland trail is, you can ask the checker out at Galena, ask Brian, hey, where's this trail drop into? How do I hit it? That way, you're not 30 miles out in the middle of somewhere where you shouldn't be. We want everybody to be accounted for, safe, and have a good time.
Something to add too, if you happen to scratch, when we don't want you guys to scratch, we want you guys to make the whole trip, a lot of money put in this race and everything on your part. But if you have to scratch, you are responsible to call these gentlemen. Don't make it Facebook official, oh, we scratched, and thinking they're going to see it on Facebook. All of us will, but they need to hear it from your voice that they scratched, the race marshals.
And that could be a text or a phone call or an email, but as soon as it happens, we need to know.
Can you talk about layovers, declaring layovers, and timeliness of doing that?
Right, so when you go into McGrath, that's the first longest ride of this race. We know everybody's going to take their 14-hour into McGrath. So we pretty much know that. We can count on you guys taking 14 in McGrath. But once you leave that, then you have all your other layovers that you need to strategically place so you can get to I think it's Tuesday by midnight? Wednesday. So you have to be there. So you have to accordingly plan where you're going to stay and for how long. As soon as you come in and you know you're going to take an 8, you need to declare that. Hey, I'm going to take 8. You can consecutively run your 8, and I think it's a 6. If you don't announce that right at the get-go, I'm going to take 8, we need to know that you're going to add that 6 before that 8's over. I think it's an hour. We need to know before that layover's over that you're going to add another 6 to it. Because we've had it, I think it was last year, we had a team come in, hey, we're going to take a layover, it's an 8. Well, then the clock was ticking, it was, I think, a half hour before it was time to go. Oh, we're going to take another 6. Well, the rules weren't like they are this year. We changed the rules to accommodate for that, but the sooner the better. We need to know what's going to happen and where it's going to happen. We don't need to know why, it's up to you guys, but we just need to know where and when. And the more you communicate with us, the better it is. If there's a question for anything, just address it to us. You know, that way there's no, well, this guy told me I could do this. Well, he's not us. You know, we want you guys to be as successful as you can be. If you're going to lay over, announce it, announce the time. If you're going to change that, you need to announce that as well. And most of the time you'll know if you need to take 14 or 8 or 6 or whatever. You guys know you need to do that. For you two, it's different. You know, you'll show up to Rainy Pass, you'll have a really good lasagna dinner. You'll have a nice, relaxing evening. And then you'll hit the coast and these guys will scream right by you and you'll be terrified. It happened to me when I ran the trail class. I thought I was having a good time, and then Todd Taylor blew by me on his tail. I was going like 100. And it really wakes you up. If you can look back and see their headlights, same thing, just kind of get over. Don't impede those guys. Let them have first shot at the gas pumps when you guys pull up, you know, because they're on the clock.
If a plane buzzes you.
Yeah, or a plane will come down and scare you as well.
That's to the trail class, by the way, not the rookies.
No, that's just, that's just you, the trail class guys. They will catch you. They will usually catch you on the coast, and they'll scare you. It's pretty humbling when you think you're going fast, and then these guys go by you, and they're going twice as fast. It's very humbling. But the layovers, it's pretty clearly defined in here. If you have any questions, there used to be, I didn't see it in here, Iron Dog's got a list of people that you can contact for the layovers. Like Lynch was saying earlier, it might be too late now. If you have friends that you can stay with, it's even better. But you need to get on the phone now. Hey, I'm going to need to stay over in Rainy Pass. I'm going to stay over McGrath, Galena, Ruby. It all depends on where. But now is the time. And many, this time to make those reservations. Yeah. And get your hotels in Nome too, because those sell out super fast. Now is probably a good time for that as well. Dave was going to talk a little about the tech inspection and what we look for and what his guys look for to make sure that you guys are race compliant. Oh, I didn't see it. But
yeah, now are you guys gonna stake out the bikes this year in Manana?
I think Roger Brown, he's pretty much heading that north end part of the race. Okay. I think Roger Brown's going to take care of that.
It'll be very well staked. It's very on top of it.
Go past the park. Yeah, probably Roger and Dennis.
Yeah.
Probably getting lost between there.
From the river to Pike?
Why are we on the Chena again?
All wet.
There's no pump at North Pole.
So just one thing that he talked about, about having good, helmet and boots and stuff. I'm sure everybody knows that they quit making bunny boots, and they're pretty tough to come by. 907 Surplus here in Anchorage has them, and they've got like the best stock over on Boniface there, and I think they're in the valley also. Yeah, have your, at tech inspection is not the day to find out that your boots don't pass,
Tech inspection's not a good day to find out anything.
Right, exactly.
That's a really good segue into why we're here about tech. And, my name's Dave Bodke. This is Brad Stroff, my twin brother. He's the better looking one. We did trail class in 2010 with one of the guy Brian. Had the time of our lives. Awesome adventure. We can close our eyes and remember every single day. Phenomenal adventure. We were able to do that because we had an awful lot of people help us get ready. And so since then, we've been volunteering, and the scope of volunteering has kind of been increasing. The last few years, we decided to take ownership of the tech inspection team, so we've been doing that and trying to make it more uniform and streamlined. So just like we said here, no surprises on tech inspection. And then this year, asked to join the race marshal team, so I'm part of that. I'm still going to have my hands on the tech side of things. Brian and Brad will be doing that. So what we're going to do is just walk through what you're actually going to go through on tech inspection day, so that there's no surprises. None. This is last year's. The one that comes in your package will be a little bit more tuned up. Anybody else want one? Get Larry.
Yes.
Get Larry.
Oh, take pictures of it.
Yeah.
There you go.
The first page is just a cover letter that we put in there to give you a heads up on the things that jump out at tech, like was already mentioned, like helmets, registration, and simple things like packing your sleeping bag so the rating of the sleeping bag is right where you open it, because otherwise we're going to make you pull your bag out. Some of you guys use those compression bags. It takes a little while to get it down.
4 hours to get it in.
Yeah, so
4 hours to
think
get it
ahead.
out.
All right. It's got our contact info, mine, Brad's, and Brian's. So if you go with any of us with any questions at all, I'd rather answer them sooner before tech.
But let me clarify that the tech guys can't tell you, yes, this is good or bad. The only 3 people that can say this is good or bad would be myself, Dave, or Derek Martin. No, those are the only 3 guys that can say, yeah, that'll work. So
If he says, I think it might work, that's a no. Okay? So come to us, like he did earlier today with his baby sack question. You know, just to make sure that the baby sacks are right. Now we're not going to be at Cabela's this year where everybody can make the mad dash to the baby sack aisle and try to get them. So the sooner the better.
Good point, 'cause that has saved a lot of people in prior years. You just tend to go by orange tape, survival computers, the food that they're missing. Big one too is the registration of your sled. You gotta have that done, especially this year, you're checking right before you fill it. So the time to correct is small. The key to that is just be prepared prior to check, and that's what we're gonna do with this checklist. Get it to you in advance.
Yeah, our job is to figure out if you have it or not, if you're compliant. It's not our job to help you get something. We just check a box saying, yep, they got it, or no, and then it's your problem.
So come prepared, the checklist is in the order of the rules, all right? So it jumps around a little bit, but you can kind of see what they're going for here. Most of these items are for your safety, so don't skip on them, all right?
Dave,
Talk loud.
like you were a rock star.
Just where you talk. There's other people listening. So, just going to run through this, starting on the checklist side here. We're just looking for stock, exhaust, and intake systems. Ring number there. The engine serial number and chassis serial number. For you guys that have got new sleds, that's super easy because you get a build sheet with your sled. So we need that before. Where it gets tricky is at the finish line, and if you're in the money, you need to see that number on the block. This last year, it was oil, fan, and flood. Because on Skidoos, it's up underneath the exhaust manifold. It's a fair amount of work to get down there to see it. So we're going to be a little prepared this year.
It's under the white pipe. It's under the white pipe this year for.
Under the white pipe?
Yeah.
That's last year's one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm
we're,
guessing, I don't know, it sucks. Don't get the top 5.
if you do know where that frickin' number is, and we're going to be a little prepared too on the tech side. So kind of check out the different manufacturers, make sure we know what this last year came from. So again, looking for all the basic stuff on your sled: brakes, headlight, taillights, snow flap and clutch guard, carbides, studded track, 2 studs for track bar. Does everyone know what that means? We've had a few years ago people show up with not. Start to restud your track right before you start.
You say, is that a minimum?
Minimum.
Okay, it's not max.
No.
Okay.
More's better. Just balance your carbides up front. So snow machine registration, that's tripped up a few people. And again, we have very little time to get this sorted out. We have to check that one right before. All of you will be running an Iron Dog GPS tracker. Usually they'll mount the actual tracker the morning of the start. We don't have the bracket. We have it mounted ready. Helmet. This is a big deal. It causes lots of problems. Know where the sticker is inside your helmet with the rating and make sure it meets those numbers. And then the color on the website, they give you a little deal on the color. Gotta look at that like that. And they give you the color, so if you're gonna go have it painted, they give you the magic numbers to make that color. Okay? And the 75% thing, I've used my hand. Just how many handprints does it go? Do the math for coverage. A couple years ago, Klein came out with an Iron Dog helmet. It wasn't right. So a lot of people run an orange tape here. Adequate clothing. We're just looking to make sure you can go out there and get in the cold and stay warm. The boots, we just talked about. Bunny boots, strongly preferred. If you're running a boot with removable liners, you have to have an extra set of liners. Okay. fire protection goggles, and that'll come up again. Tech vest or equal. Body armor, chin and ear guards. It's just the motocross style stuff.
Back to those boots, that's on you, right? Yeah,
Yes.
liner has to be on you, you can't be in your plane.
Can it be on your partner's sled?
I would say it's, yeah.
Yes.
The shin and knee guards, is there anything that won't pass?
Your kids, they gotta be, I mean, if you show up and you got these knee and shin guards that are this big, they're not gonna pass.
Okay, but there are no adult pads that won't pass that you know of right now?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
They're a good thing. I've actually gotten used to them. I wear them all the time. It's really fun. I need to stop kneeling it on the trailer, getting the sled ready to go. And I didn't need that. And have a little tumble because you're going to lose too hot. You'd be thankful when you get up. The sleeping bag we just talked about, the -20 rated. The bivy bag, a while ago that was a problem because there were some almost disposable ones out there, but I think we've got that tuned up. A spare set of face and eye protection, we talked about that earlier. Fire starting materials, waterproof matches or 2 lighters on your person, each person on the team. Some of these things are per team, some are per person. Emergency food, 2,000 calories. You got to see the label. So we had those guys with bacon. That was impressive. 2,000 calories worth of pre-cooked bacon.
And then one year I saw the same 2,000 calories get passed around to about 4 different teams on test day.
Yeah.
And that's not going to happen.
No. Aerial flares with a current date or a rescue layer with spare batteries, just for that. Okay?
I got a question on that. Do you have a brand? There are several brands of lasers out there. Do you guys have a brand? Do you have some information?
There's a place out in Wasilla, or Willow actually, Team 49. They're a good team because they're the ones set it up last year, and it's just called Rescue Laser. And some lady in Wasilla orders them in. I could get the info and forward.
It's called the Rescue Laser. It's made by Great Land. I know it.
Okay.
Yeah, they're offering the Iron Dog racers and trail team. They're offering a significant discount.
Yeah, it was like $100. We bought one last year, and it sits in the web of your fingers, and it's like a straight line that goes
Yep.
on home.
Awesome.
I think they offer a red or green too, if I'm correct. But I don't,
We still carry both because your flares still double as a fire starter, extra. So it's kind of nice, you know, one person carries one person carries another. Because when in doubt, flares are going to start something on fire.
Have you actually tried the flares to start a fire? To work?
Yeah, we've done it before.
We tried it once.
It worked.
Learn anytime, huh?
Flares are
Pretty
expired.
scary.
Yeah, Great Land's offering a 50% off deal to all racers and officials.
One flashlight with spare batteries, a spare drive belt. Most sleds are set up to carry that. A GPS or a map and compass. Just about everybody's running GPSs. And we did trail class. We took the map with us. I'll tell you that for planning your next day out, it's actually pretty good. So, something to be. Hatchet or saw, just something that you can cut wood with. A little fold-up survival things. Just fine.
So, with the saw, there's 1 per team. Don't put it in the lead guy's sled, because then when you blow a corner and you wide yourself up in the alders and he's off in the 10 miles ahead of you, you're basically sitting there when you could have been cutting trees. So if you have one person that follows more often than not, put the saw on their sled.
First aid kit, 1 per team. And I hope they talked about that earlier when I didn't see that, but there's some things you can add to that that make your life more comfortable on the trail. So, for blisters and things like that. Arctic stove with fuel, 1 per team. Some way to make water out of snow on top of the stove. So 1 pint. 25 feet of 1,200-pound test or stronger rope. I would go or stronger because I'm pretty sure all you're going to use that at one point in time. Tools, we just want to see that you've got a tool roll that you can go do something with. There's no required inventory. You just got to have enough to get your sled fixed and done. Security decals on the slide rails for the racer class, we're gonna give you serial numbered stickers that go on the slide reel. So we'll record those with tech and double check the finish line. Team number on the windshield, and then the Iron Dog sponsor decals in your packet, or when you get the decals, they'll tell you where to put the stickers. So we gotta just make sure they're all in the right place to give the sponsors their due credit. So you'll get spot checked in Nome when you're racing, and the top 5 minimum finishers in Fairbanks will get checked right at the finish line. So always have your stuff with you. There's going to be a penalty system coming along. Here's the stickers that go on the slide rails. Big number go on the back of your jacket.
The color of your sticker dictates what class you're in as well.
Are the stickers supplied?
Yes.
Okay.
One, though, do not come ask me for a duplicate number. I will tell you no.
They're pretty thin, so they'll wrinkle pretty easy.
One per sled.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's the same color as the helmet. Okay.
Racers are orange, trail class is green.
Yeah.
Don't put your race windshield on and go practice.
Right. Correct. The thing is, be prepared. We're trying to make this help you, help us, help you. All right. So this is going to help you for when you're out there riding. Put this stuff together sooner than later. Don't try to put this together early on. Do your practice runs. Know how to pack it. Know where things fit. Know who's carrying what. Just like with SOP. So that's what we're trying to accomplish here. Any questions?
Sorry, it was a comment, and it was brought up during the break, and it's absolutely critical. We ended up keeping a list both on our iPhones or whatever, but also knowing where the stuff is, because you're going to get fatigued, even, and this includes the rec class, you're going to be tired, whatever. And you don't want to spend half an hour pulling off panels, trying to remember where you put the spare whatever, or where it is. Last year, we labeled our bags with little label makers, so we know what's in the bag, and we try to be the same on both machines. We came to a consensus as to what's where, because the last thing you need is to spend 45 minutes in a struggle trying to find what is put in what spot, and you can have it so finely tuned packed that you need to do it. And it's back to the other part is that commentary about getting this stuff early is critical, and packing it early, not just waiting to that last minute, because it comes up over and over. People will repack for the sleeping bag or another part under the seat, and it impacts on their shop. Or we had one where we're adding, and we cut a line through our radiator based on how the bag was sitting that we would have solved had we figured it out 3 weeks before the race. And you can't have a cut radiator hose in the race and expect not to have problems.
You know, again, this is last year's list. Oops, go ahead.
There's more sort of rules, but I would talk about, or if you could, mention something about assemblies, like part for part, you know, when you're rechanging if you break something.
Okay.
I mean, I even still have I mean, I don't know where the line, I guess, crosses, and I don't know if you can get it better.
Okay, so if hypothetically you roll into Caltag and you blew a rear shock, you can drop your suspension, change out that shock. The only thing you cannot change out would be your slide rails. If you break a rail, I don't think that's ever happened that I can remember. Guys breaking rails or cracking them.
Oh, it happened.
Waller it out or something.
Yeah.
Cody and Brett broke one in 16.
Okay.
And you have to pull off that individual rail and replace that individual rail. So you're taking off every nut and bolt and replacing that one rail.
And
then that rail gets left with the
chair
official at that checkpoint.
So what we're trying to keep from happening is he rolls in with a broken rail, he goes to his plane, and just pulls out a whole new assembly. Just boom. In 5 minutes he's got his machine back and he's gone. We're trying to keep away from that. That way it keeps you accountable for your parts that you break. You can rebuild your motor. It happens almost every year. You just can't change out the block because that's why we need a bid number. Last year we teched the top 10 guys that came in, and the Skidoos were the worst finding that number, and that's just to keep everybody on an even playing field. Some guys can afford to have 3 blocks in their plane. Some guys don't even have a plane. So that's another way that we try to keep the race fair across the board.
So the only component you're not allowed to replace is the engine block, in case happens. That's it.
So automatic scratch.
Well, See, and
Or
that
you piece it together.
You could rebuild, I believe you can rebuild it with individual components, but you can't just grab a long block
and
slam
drop
in
it,
there.
right.
That's the intent, is so you're not throwing
Right.
complete assemblies in.
Right.
at
Yeah, I
once.
just want to clarify that.
Yeah, if you have it already pre-assembled and in your plane, yeah, we're gonna say no. No, it needs to be. You take your gaskets, your pistons, your cylinders, all that stuff out, put the new ones back in, piece by piece. And that's another way to keep it fair enough to work well.
We were ready to drop in a complete new rider.
No, a couple of the things that Dave talked about that we've had to address in the past, where a lot of you guys want to get these flashy sleds with these beautiful wraps, and do it. One guy last year was a marketing genius, and he let everybody at Cabela's for $10 sign a sled. That's genius, do it. But don't cover up the numbers that we need. You can cut the little bitty 2-inch by a 1/4-inch window so we can see your sled numbers. But you can get as fancy as you want. But when it comes time for Dave's guys to tech you, you throw a fit. Well, that's not gonna work. You got to cut your wrap, and make sure you got all your stickers and all that stuff on before tech. It just turns into a big goat rope when they're trying to do their job and you're over here trying to put your wrap on or your other stickers, and just try to be as prepared as possible for that day. And then in the past, we've gone around and we'll ask you, I need to see your matches and your lighters. They're supposed to be on your body, And then in Gnome, we'll pick 2 things. Hey Brian, show me your bivy sack and your Arctic stove. Just random things, And then he's got us in the garage pull all this stuff out because we want to make sure that everybody has what's necessary, And sometimes it's the littlest thing. I want to see your tools. Well, these guys got their tools buried under 10 other pounds of stuff, and it's not to inconvenience them. It's just to make sure that everybody has what's required of them. And your food, the 2,000 calories. I think it was last year. Some of the guys found these little tubes of like these little lozenges that will pass for your 2,000 calories. So it went from a brick, pound of bacon, whatever it was, all the way down to these little tubes of stuff. So ask these more veteran riders, and they'll be able to tell you how to shave a couple pounds or even some size off of your gear.
Brad pointed out I skipped over a couple things here when I was talking about the bivy bag. So no space blankets, but then the other thing is you need spare layers, which includes socks, upper and lower thermals, and pack those waterproof, because it's not just getting wet from going in the creek or stream, it can be warm and rainy. So you got soaking wet from rain, and having an extra layer that's dry, priceless. Any other questions?
So if you're vacuum packing your spare layers, and then you pack a couple Ziplocs, in case you do have to replace those, and they got used, you still want them to be dry.
I know almost every year I change out my thermals, and just because, it's 1,000 miles of rubbing your foot on the seat, stuff wears out.
The thermals on your butt.
Well, you can get creative on how you pack your gear. I saw 2016, a very veteran rider. He knows his gas mileage and he knows how his sled's going to operate. He took one of his fuel tanks and put 4 bolts on it, and that's where he stowed his sleeping bag. So it's kind of thinking outside the box. And he knew he could get to wherever he needed to go on one auxiliary tank. And that's kind of genius, You don't think of stuff like that. But pick these guys, pick their brains, and they will kind of blow your mind when it comes to, oh, you can put this there, how? And then, like he said, a lot of the guys will help out except for valving. That's a very close guarded secret. Shocks.
And rookie mistake is when you're packing, if you know you're going to need the tools, find a spot where you can get to them easy. The tow rope going outside, I would say probably really fast. Put your tow rope handy so that if something happens, you got it really quick. Not that you're fumbling around to get it while you watch your partner pulling down on a little iceberg.
And if you do use your tow rope, if you tow in, when you leave Nome, you need to have that tow rope. So you'll have to get another 25 feet when you leave Nome. Because if you make it to Fairbanks, or when you make it to Fairbanks, when we tech you, you don't have it, you get a lot for nothing. So it's pretty good insurance. And then it happens every year. Somebody always uses their tow ropes.
back with regard to the spare clothes, bags are cheap and everything, but they fail. If you've got a little budget left, I'd recommend going like the REI. They've got what's called an event bag right here, Sea and Summit. So those come in various sizes. So they're extra small, medium, large, whatever. You could use one for your sleeping bag. You could use one for your spare clothes. But those compact down to hardly anything.
So
they got the side pulls.
So this could be the one that, not the compression one, but, and this was a find that actually was one of the few things that we came up with was included. So on your gear, you can hear it coming out, but it's a one-way material, and you can compress your clothes down because a bag that you can't get all the air out is not going to help you because you don't have enough room. So you want the waterproof, and then this style, and I don't know if there's another one that does it, but these ones, the event is perfect for keeping it dry.
Right. Those things are golden, especially using for compress things down to go into the bags, because the powder, the dust when you're going down the trail, it's gonna come through every little crack here, and this is gonna be, you're gonna pull this out, and you're gonna be just as soaked. This stuff's gonna be just as wet as what you got out of, and you're not gonna be happy.
So talking about gear and long underwear, make sure that your shorts, your long underwear shorts that you're wearing fit tight enough that they don't go places you don't want them to go. Because when that starts to happen, it's brutal. And then you got to deal with it for another 1,500 miles. Something else to think about, there's a product, I think REI had it, it's called Body Glide. Runners use it a lot, it helps prevent chafing. I would strongly invest in a stick of that stuff so you can put it where you need to put it.
Practice with it. Team that I know of, they tried it the day of the race, and it was the worst 300 miles to the drive.
Yeah, it's brutal.
So don't practice with it if you use it the day of the race.
Okay, for the trail class guys, if you guys try to turn this into a trail class race, we will stop you and hold you up. If you think you'll get to Rainy Pass at like 2 in the afternoon. Well, I can make it to Rome. Well, you're not going to go to Rome. We're going to stop you at Rainy Pass. And that's just for your safety as well as everybody else's, if you guys make it into McGrath with plenty of daylight, well, you have to stop at McGrath. Take your time. That way we don't have to say, hey, slow down, you guys. It's no race. It's no big deal. Just do your thing, enjoy it. And that's to keep you guys from overriding your ability to. I've been out there when the very first year I ran this race in the trail class, 3 guys, oh, we're going to go pro next year. We're going to go pro. Well, they wadded up in the burn, and they had to limp all the way back to Rainy Pass with a destroyed front end. And that is the worst part of that trail, is to try to get back from all that into Rainy Pass. So just enjoy it and take lots of pictures.
The best thing to do is treat it as just the fact that you're on the trail and you're seeing the trail. You're going to experience every single thing that a pro class rider does, every single one. And so, but you're going to be doing it at a speed where you can stop, and that's what we did. There would be something that, like when you come across that creek that's turned into this glacier coming at you, and if there weren't studs going up the middle of it, we wouldn't have known that that's where we were supposed to go. And we're stopping and saying, wow, that's really cool, and then we go. But you're going to have time to just kind of think about, okay, how am I going to solve this problem? But the thing that you want to do is you want to be able to get to know them. And I think Matt Spurnack was the one that told us. He says, I guarantee you, a slow ride, no matter how slow it is, beats the fastest walk you will ever do in your life. Yeah. So.
One of the things is kind of protect yourself. And when you bring your gear, you're going to wind up bringing all your stuff inside. There's going to be 2 guys, multiple work, and just be prepared where your stuff is. So don't have it in a big old pile like you're doing laundry. Just think ahead. It helps us help you.
I'm like, I said, you need to know where the stuff goes on your sled. You need to know where your gear goes to go. So practice it for me. Ride it for me. You know, no more questions.
At the end, for the first 5 guys, if there's anybody here, we know you're tired, but there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. And we have to tack at the end, no matter how inconvenient it is. We know you're tired, we know you've been through a lot, we know that we're not doing it because we're bad guys, we're doing it because we have to. And so just recognize, be patient with us, and we will do the same, be patient and respectful with you.
The top 5 guys are the money guys. That's why we keep referring to them as the top 5.
I think we did top 8 last year in case we had to kick somebody out.
That's a good. It was, and by all means, have your wives, girlfriends, kids, grandparents, have everybody there to send you guys off. We'll let them do the flag. You guys come in Fairbanks, we'll let them do the flag. I mean, get your family behind you. I mean, they've been behind you this far. You know, let them share in it too. You know, it's cool to have your kids send you off. I mean, when I ran the pro class, my kid, he was tiny, and he did the flag, and I was about a hot ball, just mess by the time I got off the lake. You know, it's an emotional thing. But it's cool. Get your family involved and let them share in all the hard work that you guys been putting in.
Can you give your wife Brian's cell phone number?
Yeah. And if you guys have a hard time getting a hold of us, you know, there's going to be 3 of us. Keep trying. Have your wives and family members keep trying. You know, the checkers, if something happens and you leave a checkpoint, the checkers will call us. Hey, you know, this guy didn't look so good. He's a little busted up. And, you know, we'll know. They kind of keep us in the loop as to far how you guys are doing, how you're looking, how your sleds are looking. So any you come in to know. I remember, I think Brian had to change out an S module year before last, or windshield.
Oh no, I ran pretty good from the I had it running.
Yeah.
Everything's running next month.
So, however that thing left Big Lake is how it needs to leave known. So, I mean, it can be a lot of work or it can be a little work. But whatever you use out there needs to be replaced by the time you leave.
Take your time in the garage and fix everything.
Yeah.
You leave it, you're out in the weather,
yeah.
plane's not there or whatever.
And you can talk to these guys. They recruit some of the best ranchers in the state. You will be amazed at how quick John Feo, Palma, Spurnack, Frankie, these guys can do amazing things to these machines in 10 minutes. Amazing. You see a guy change out a ski, his skags, everything, bushings, A-arms in like 3 minutes. It's pretty amazing.
You can do a pretty major fix pretty quick. I mean, Chris and Mike 3 years ago did crank up an hour and a half or so finished fit. I mean, so it's pretty, you're not completely out of it if you're going in there knowing you have a lot of work.
And you can recruit other teams to help you.
Yeah.
If they're willing to help.
Yeah, and like he was saying, you can get other people to help, but then there's a fine line where if Larry's not doing anything and he's standing in the crowd with the 9/16 wrench and he's like, yeah, you can't do that. You gotta have all your tools right there with you, all your parts lined up, have everything ready to go. You can't, you'll have your 2 pit crew guys, I guess, for lack of a better term, and that's it. You can't have somebody in the stands just chucking sockets or wrenches or anything like that in there. But
just to insert real quick, the garage is live streamed and is by far the most watched thing, so you are having thousands of eyes on you. So we know if somebody's on it.
You guys are responsible for my lack of work productivity through that whole week.
One of us will be sitting there timing you, and if there's the 4 of you, I'll say, all right, who's going to say stop? And you'll say, I'm saying stop. Well, if you say stop, I'm not going to listen to you. He's going to be the one that tells me to stop that watch. And then if you stop, then you're like, oh man, I got to go back and fix it. Well, I'm adding, I think it's a half hour to an hour on top of your time because we had to stop and then restart. So it's very crucial that you have one guy speak for you, and that's the guy we listen to.
Every year you'll see a team rolling out of the garage with side panels in their hands because they forgot to put on a side panel because it's not too good. don't want to be that guy.
And it's a big flurry of happenings. You know, it's pretty amazing. And you'll have other racers come in just to watch. You know, and it's a little unsettling sometimes, but it's pretty amazing to watch these guys do what they can do to a sled.
So an experience will kind of dictate this, but when you're at the checkpoints and you stop and you figure out something's wrong, if you're racing obviously on the clock, figure it out and then call ahead. Call whoever to try and arrange getting parts to you at your next spot, because it can certainly help out. Same thing goes when you're pulling the gnome. They're going to give you a second to take a look at stuff. Take a look at it so if you can have your time later, where you're actually doing your 2-minute run through or whatever the time wise is for it. Use that carefully to figure out what your game plan is for the next round.
And like what Larry was saying, if you're ready to, you already did your inspection and you went and had your food and you want to come back and work on your sled at 7 o'clock, we're going to be there at 7. And then if you're like, oh man, my A-arms didn't make it, I got to wait till 9 o'clock, well, I'm not sticking around. You know, it's up to you guys to have everything ready to go when you say it's ready to go, or we'll just bypass and go on to the next unit. Because we got to keep everything moving and rolling. And for you trail class guys, don't be surprised if you're not hit up by some pro guys. Hey man, how much for that A-arm? You know, they'll cannibalize sleds, which it happens. So
They're gonna fly it home anyways. So
yeah. Get it to the airport and they'll fork it on and go off. And that's try to recoup some of your losses, you know.
And if you do scratch, there's a very good possibility that your sled's not going to look the same when you get back.
Yeah.
It's kind of fair game as everyone puts it, and after you scratch it, somebody else that's still racing each parts off of it when you're not around.
It'll look like it just came out of a junkyard. Everything will be gone. You won't have a thing. The only thing will be like a tunnel and a steering post.
You might not have any belts. That's usually a good one.
Yeah, exactly. But that's pretty much it from the rule standpoint. Things that we had to address last year. Like I said, if you ever question it, don't do it. Give us a call. That way we don't have to discipline anybody or add time or anything. So we should be pretty easily reached for the most part. Even before the race, feel free to call us or email us.
Okay. Good luck, guys.
I think this
Take a quick 2-second break.
Yeah, I think we're messing up the guy trying to
Oh, snowplower guy is in. It'll keep snowing. He'll be okay.
Maybe not.
So we're almost done with the workshop?
I think so, sure.
We got one more person to go with Jake Adele for the timing.
Hamilton.
Hamilton.
Who's saying it wrong?
Sorry, Kent.
We just won't pay him this year.
Oh, okay, good. There, we saved money already.
So my name's Jake Adele. I do all the timing support, basically behind the website, basically kind of quality check what comes out of it. Does it make sense? Does it not make sense? I'm a pro class veteran and I've been doing the timing and GPS management for about 5 years now. So as far as the timing goes, the race is kind of broken into 3 legs, if you will. The Big Lake to McGrath, Nome, and then Nome, Fairbanks. Now when you're in McGrath, you'll be off the clock. When you're in Nome, you'll be off the clock. The rest of your layovers, though, are taken while the race clock is running. And then we credit you the amount of time against your course time with a layover credit. Questions on timing, usually call HQ. There will be a 800 number for HQ. And how the timing kind of works is at every checkpoint there's a checkpoint official, usually several of them, and when you come in, they'll have a time for you, and you'll have to initial a piece of paper. Make sure you look at that, and make sure you take the 2 seconds to look at that and initial it, because that's the record that we have, and we can only do as good as our information coming out of the volunteers is. So that'll all be relayed to HQ, gets put into the website, and then the website will update your course time accordingly. GPS. The GPS trackers will be put on at the starting line. I'll have them all, and each unit is assigned to a specific rider, and this is the bracket for them. They're not that big, and they come with supplied hardware. Now there's a flat washer and a vibration washer, a rubber vibration washer. That rubber washer needs to go between this bracket and your machine, and there's a little channel on the bottom. We'll snap the GPS unit in there. It's no bigger than if you were to fill this bracket up, but we'll snap it in there, and we need to be able to get a zip tie underneath these. So these have to be on at tech inspection. Don't put any double-sided tape, Velcro, whatever, ammos. Yeah, don't put any Velcro, any glue, anything underneath there. The four bolts are more than enough to hold them on. I usually put together a insert that comes in the racer packets for approved locations. In general, they need to be relatively horizontal, somewhere where they can see the sky, and you can't have them underneath your cowling. They have to be on the dash somewhere. Now, the different manufacturers have air boxes in different places, so we try to work with them, but we have pretty standard locations. On the Skidoos here, right on the left-hand side, there's a little panel that works really well. Polaris is in a similar location. We might look at trying to change that for the year because we've had a few failures. They can be sensitive to gas, so if you can avoid it, try not to dump fuel all over them. Then the cats, I think we talked about the cats there. There's a panel right on the center on the dash bag that works pretty well. So if you have any questions, my phone number will be in the racer packets. You can get a hold of me, and I'll help you out with mounting. So brackets will come in the racer packets, and you won't get the GPS units till we put them on. We'll put them on at the starting line. We'll check them in Nome, and then we'll take them off in Fairbanks. These things don't need to charge. They'll run the whole race. I mean, I think even last year, I think Housebacks ran the whole year, and he had about an 80-hour course time, the poor guy. So it ran the whole time. We don't need to change them. Sometimes, every once in a while, we'll have a failure. It'll stop pinging, and we will try our best to try and get a new unit put on, whether that be in Galena or Unalakleet or in Nome. I'll be in Nome too, so I can check them and change them out in Nome, and we can just reassign them. These units, they're not a real-time deal. They only ping every 6 minutes. So you'll ping 6 minutes, and however far you travel in that 6 minutes, it'll ping again. And they'll figure a speed over a distance. Now, that's not an instantaneous speed. It's an average, and that's based off the theoretical course that we have historically. Sometimes it changes, so they're not completely accurate with regard to speed, but they are incredibly accurate with regard to location. So sometimes they'll miss a ping. You have to understand, this isn't Baja. These don't run off of RFID or cell network. They run off a satellite system, and they run off flashlight batteries. So sometimes when you're in Rainy Pass, Hell's Gate, they'll miss pings in there. Also, depending on what side the unit is mounted on and where the satellites are, sometimes they'll ping better southbound than they ping northbound. That's something we can't really control, but we do our best to try and give you guys an accurate system that's tracking it. I get a lot of questions, especially from racers' wives. Well, what's going on with these guys? They're way off the trail. I don't know. You tell me. Why are they up there? I don't know. They're accurate. So make sure you let your families know to trust them. And if they miss a ping, we know about it, and we'll monitor it, and we'll try and change it out or address the problem when we get an opportunity to. And that's why each sled has one: redundancy and safety. Once we put them on, you don't have to touch them. You don't have to mess with them. Just leave them alone. They'll go to sleep. So when you park your sleds on a layover, eventually on the map, you'll see your little bubble will gray out, and if it sits long enough, eventually it will remove itself from the map until it wakes back up. They wake back up on vibration, so you'll start the sled. Usually that'll wake them back up, but sometimes it takes a few miles of hitting the bumps before the accelerometer then wakes the unit up. So that's not uncommon. You leave Koyak or Unocleat at 12:05, but your GPS doesn't ping till 12:20. Sometimes that happens. Again, that's why we have two of them for redundancy. This is not a two-way unit. It's not intended to be an SOS unit. Whatever you guys are carrying on your own, whether it be a sat phone or a spot device to relay information, that's completely separate. These units are a one-way unit. They talk to the satellites, and that talks to our software and the website. So there's nothing. They don't call for help. That's kind of on you guys. Now, I haven't since we've been using the system the last 5 or 6 years now, I haven't seen any interference or adverse effects with any kind of two-way communicators, anything else. But a lot of guys get kind of paranoid. That's, again, on the skidoos. That's why people mount them on the left-hand side, because your key is on the right-hand side. So they try to maintain a little bit of separation. It's never a bad idea. So that's about all I got. You guys have any questions for me? Or?
I guess for
Yep.
more rules or whatever, but if you guys end up running into like a thing where you might use off time, try to get that figured out as soon as possible. You don't want to end up at the end of the race and you're like, oh sweet, I got 5th place or whatever, and then you got docked 15 minutes for some prior thing, and it puts you back to 6th place. It has happened. We ran into it last year, and we didn't get docked position, but we got docked time. But try to work that out, prior to finishing, because then you might see, or you might push harder from the man all the way to Fairbanks or whatever. A team a couple years ago and lost the position by like 2 seconds or something like that.
Yeah. And with the race structure now, we used to do a Tanana hole, which allowed us to condense the field again in Tanana before the finish. And now with no Tanana hole, some of the back marker teams will be artificially accelerated on the course. Now it's our goal to try and maintain the integrity of the finish order, especially for the money, the top 5, top 6. But if you are a team towards the back, you may end up, we got a 10-hour layover. Well, they might shorten that to a 6. So we try to figure that stuff out as the race is going and as we see how fast the teams are moving. And it's not easy because we have to predict when to launch teams 1,000 miles away to get them into Fairbanks within a 4-hour window. So we're constantly working on it, but just so you know, you may be accelerated a little bit on the course. If you're quite a ways back, we might say, how are you guys feeling? And that's a conversation you need to have with the marshals. Are you feeling good? Can you keep going? Yeah, can we have 2 hours to rest? And then the marshals will send you on. So that may occur. More than likely it will for some of the back teams. So just keep that in mind.
So Jake will keep track of that, and then he'll come to us and say, in order for these guys to get here, we need to leave a couple hours or whatever. And then we'll go hold of the checkers, and we'll get hold of you, then we'll call us back, and then we'll have that talk. Hey, are you guys good to run the whole thing? Can you do it, or what do you need? We need to get you guys up into the big group of finishers. And then if you say you need 3 hours, then you need 3. But we will push you to try to get you to finish with the agility.
And our intention is to if we have to change a layover, last year was a unique situation because we lost quite a bit of time northbound, so we had to adjust the layover southbound. But if we need you to take an 8 instead of a 10, our goal is to know that when you get to the checkpoint, so we can let the checkers know, so they can let you know, so you guys can get some sleep. So that's our goal, because I don't really sleep the last 2 days. So we just try and stay on top of it, so you guys have the information ahead of time, so you can adjust your layovers and you can plan accordingly, because y'all got to sleep and stuff. So just know that we are working on it, and it's not just a dartboard thing. It's pretty well thought out. So
what happens if those GPS things get loose or they lose them?
If you lose one, well, it pings for a while and then it goes away. And we never see it again. If they are loose though, let a checker know. We can try and replace a zip tie, especially if you're on a layover. Just let the checker know if you feel like it's about to fall off. If it is, put it in your pocket. If you wreck and something cracks and it seems like it's going to fall off, just put it in the pocket. and then let the checker know at the next checkpoint, and they can let us know, and we can kind of figure out a plan to have it remounted to your machine before you leave that layer. So.
And then if you do get caught behind, like if you only get an 8 hour on that last day, and like some of the topper guys get 10 hours, whatever, most likely you're leaving before them. Try not to race them and be respectful for people racing, especially for money and stuff like that. It happened last year, and it sucks racing somebody that's in 10th place, and you're trying to, get top 5 or whatever, and you're battling with something.
Yeah, you didn't want to talk
No.
about. You just said earlier you didn't
Oh,
want
I
to
don't
talk
care.
No, that's a good point. Last year was kind of unique. Our goal is to try and maintain the integrity of the top 5 or 6. And last year, with all the variables, it was at about 5:30 in the morning on finish day. Wow.
If you're getting moved up, it's probably because you're not in contention.
Correct.
That's a good way to look at it.
So.
If you don't bring your GPS back though, you don't get your GPS deposit back. That's why you have to pay
Yeah.
it.
If Jake sees it in the garage in South Anchorage, you're probably not going to get your deposit back. It's just an opinion. It's in the garage.
And these guys talk about the race and being competitive, and that was never quite my mindset all the finishing. But I got to tell you that as they're cranking to do it, there's still the sportsmanship issue, and we all stop and check on theirs if it's down or not, whether you're in a position like me or other, and that's part of the family. And I totally respect that. And one of the people I respect the most was Mark Toga, who stopped for somebody, rendered assistance with a gentleman with broken leg, and camped out and nibbied with him for hours in a snowstorm, didn't finish because he was taking care of somebody. And we need absolutely respect. And I see it on the trail all the time, and it's the practice runs as well. You'll get a call when somebody's stuck somewhere, and the team comes out, and there's people making calls, going to help out. So it's not just the week of the race, it's the whole time, and know that, and file away some of those phone numbers, and let's help each other out.
And last year, a guy going in, I think it was out of Oprah, steamer, and a team stopped, helped, and they lost, maybe an hour and a half. And we gave them that time back.
Yeah, we'll credit them the time back for rendering aid.
Yeah, you're helping out with a busted femur out in the middle of nowhere. We're not going to dock you that. That's stand-up stuff right there.
Gotta tell you, as a physician, that's one of the toughest things I've ever met in my entire life.
Hospital phone.
Because yeah, I tell you, he's pulls in. They say, "Can you take a look?" And I go, "Not much I can do, broken femur." And when I first saw him, he's got little sticks over his leg, not above the near hip, just blended. And I said, "You think it broke?" He goes, "Well, I'm pretty sure I can hear it moving." And other stuff. I said, "Well, the right way to brace it is from under your armpit to below your ankle, stretching out to keep it from moving." And he said, "But I can't ride." And he had to rode for an hour and a half to be able to get out. And the pin's got to be grooved. So that the next day I had pictures of his splinted femur and the fracture site, which had bones every which way. And he was sitting there talking to me and he just said, "I got to suck it up." I mean, it was brutal.
Yeah. He said you can hear the bones hitting and just feel every bit of it. And then he said the plane ride back was the smoothest, best plane ride he's ever experienced in his life. It's one of those things, it's a crappy hour and a half ride, and the greatest plane ride ever.
Yeah, and Eric Watson didn't make it off the lake. The wife stopped and says, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe." And saying, he's got to get lifeline because he can't breathe. I think it's something like that.
So, something's going to happen. Keep Larry close.
Right in front of him.
Come on,
Yeah,
Larry,
make sure you
somewhere.
guys
Right in front of him. Right in front of
Come on
him.
somewhere, Larry, around.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that just about wraps up the Woody's Rookie Workshop. We have one more fun thing to do. They're a great sponsor, and they offered up some door prizes for everybody present and whoever's participating on the live stream. I know we had a couple folks send Sarah a note. So we got some tickets here. And first we are drawing for gear bag.
Sure.
We'll draw for a Woody's gear bag. So get your tickets ready, folks.
Yes, they're winning here pretty high. What did you give out, 4 tickets?
Just about. I guarantee you everybody here will go home with their prize. How's that? From Woody's. Okay, the winning number is 719-3929.
Woo! Famous Ada.
Must be present.
State your name, your team number, and
Thanks, Woody.
Thank you,
Yep,
Woody.
thank you, Woody. Okay, the next one is a pit jacket. And that winner is 7193930. Whoa!
That's gonna be the best thing on
Thank you.
the starting line. That's
And
it right there.
this last one is a pretty awesome prize from Woody's. It's a complete traction kit. So I know you guys can all get the hookup with Woody's. And the winner of that is 7193928. Yes. And I said everybody would go home with a prize. We also have some koozies from Woody's.
Oh.
Oh yeah, here's your traction kit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go, sir. Here's the rest of them right here. But I think that's it, unless anybody has any other questions? Anything? Next event, look for them. They're going to be little raffle hotspots. We're going to be pushing the raffle ticket. Everybody, come on, buy a raffle ticket. Or if you want to sell them, we have sign-out sheets. We're really trying to use that as a fundraiser this year. Thanks to all our sponsors, great sponsors, Woody's, Donlin, etc. And thanks to you guys. Just be safe out there. And seriously, bend the ears of the veterans and the marshals. They really know what they're doing. So. All right. Thank you very much.
Put them on.
Here's your
Adam,
for today.
Big mouth.
You guys are working for the big dollars now. See you.
Later, get seen.
Yeah.
See you in the trail.
Yeah.
Be
Thank you.
safe.